Members, you can turn your video on and we'll set up YouTube in a minute.
No. I believe this is the microphone you need, not that one. Yeah.
I was ready for the dance party.
Stop confusing me. Doesn't take much. Are we good to go? Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Stan Komorik, and I'll be trying to chair this meeting this morning. I think we have it all together now. This is the Etobicoke York Committee of Adjustment, and in accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is now called to order. I'd like to introduce my fellow panel members. On my far left is Nadia Popovic. On my near left is Laura Alderson. On my near right is Sophia Ruddick, and on my far right is Bill Dalton. I'd also like to introduce Barbara Batozik, who is the Secretary, Treasurer, and Manager for the Etobicoke Committee of Adjustment. Just need to go through some somewhat lengthy opening remarks. So I'll proceed to do that now. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. Our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. The procedure this morning will be as follows. The Committee of Adjustment is now conducted in a hybrid and in-person virtual format. Some applications and participants will make their submissions in person, while others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx and online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connected with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time, and all other times your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with a written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during their video appearance. Receiving a copy of the decision. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on the application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, as the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. So now only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of the committee. The appeal instructions are set out on the bottom of the decision of the committee. Our hearing procedure today, I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. When you make your submissions, where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for decision. Each speaker, including the applicant and or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. One of us will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other material you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing today. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposal at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of those changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on speakers in the hearing room first and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker and after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has the opportunity to rebut, but only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Okay, moving ahead with the agenda then. Our first item is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting, which I believe was August the 1st. Yeah, okay, sorry, if I could get a mover or a seconder. I was not at that meeting, so.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I will move to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Popovic. Is there a seconder?
And as I was there, I will second them.
Perfect. Okay, Ms. Alderson, all in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Are there any declarations of interest of panel members, of staff on it for any of the items on this morning's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward. Are there any files to be closed, Madam Secretary Treasurer? No. Okay. So our next item of business before we get to the main agenda would be any deferrals that have been requested for the morning session. And I believe there are a couple.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Items 11 and 13 from planning and 12 from the applicant in transportation.
Okay, so let's start with item 11. which is 8 Denison Road West.
So, Mr. Chairman, we do have the agent for item 11, but none of the neighbors on the list were present when I did the sound check, but I will double check that now. So I am unmuting the agent, Andrea Christoph, and in the meantime, I'll check to see if the neighbors have since joined. And it doesn't look like any of the neighbors that are on the list have joined through WebEx, but they might be in the chambers.
Is there anyone here for item 11? No? Okay, let's hear from Andrea.
Yes, we are requesting a deferral due to the fact that there were some minor changes made to the application. And in discussions with the planners, we have resubmitted these drawings for a new ZAP, which is not available at this time.
Okay, so you're asking for a deferral to clarify your variances, basically.
That's correct.
Thank you. And sorry, there's no one online from the area residents?
That's correct, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Well, we'll move forward. So we have a deferral request from the applicant. If someone's ready for a motion or if there's any questions. Nadia?
Based on the request by the applicant and no objections thereto. Based on the request being made by the applicant and no objections, I move to defer this matter to the next available date.
Thank you, Mr. Povic.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Okay, item 11 is deferred. Okay, the next item for deferral was 12. I need my glasses back.
The agent is on the call.
36 Gray Avenue. Thomas?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Good
I'd
afternoon.
like to defer the,
Sorry, I think we just lost you.
sorry, do you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I'd like to defer 36 Gray. We had some comments from planners and we'd like to go over that and come back with probably a redesign.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room to hear for item 12? No? Okay. Anyone online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No? Okay.
I'm prepared to make a motion. Community planning wants it refused. The applicant is asking for deferral, and transportation is also asking for deferral, so it does make sense to defer.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Item is referred.
Mr. Chairman, before we continue, there is a brand-new telephone call-in user who I can't seem to identify. So just
Sure.
before we
figure it
continue.
out.
Telephone call-in users are only identified by their first few digits of their phone number. So can I have the person whose phone number is 416702 please identify themselves?
Yes, that's me, Nick Brandolino.
Okay, Nick. You're the owner for 24 Gaydon Avenue?
Correct.
Okay,
But
but
there's an agent online. I'm
right,
just
but
calling
your
him.
agent will be speaking, not yourself, not you, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
You can proceed.
Okay, so our next item is item 13, which is there's also a staff deferral request. And if we can get the agent online or in person. Welcome.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and fellow committee members. My name is Roshan Thuriganasumter. I'm a planner at Design Plan Services located at 900 the Small Suite 300, and I am the authorized agent for 50 Francis Avenue. I do understand planning staff is recommending deferral, but we have revised a proposal, and my clients would like to proceed with the hearing today.
We have seen your revisions. We knew there was, your variances were revised, and then just in the last couple of days, there was material added with regards to the revised plans, so we did see those. Our outstanding issue, though, is we don't know whether those were the issues that planning was requesting you to address, as we do not have comments back from planning on those revisions. So if we had a planning report outlining in detail what they had issues with, then we would have been able to deal with it that way. But unfortunately, we don't know. So that's our dilemma.
I understand, Mr. Chair. Yeah, my clients would like to proceed if it is possible, but I understand what you have noted.
Madam Secretary Treasurer, do we know what timelines we're looking at now for new hearing?
Right now, we're scheduling for October.
Okay. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Again, I'll leave it up to the committee members. I mean, if we do proceed today, we're kind of guessing. So.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to note there's a deferral request from forestry as well.
Yes.
There is, yes. And I think some of the added material addresses that. I think one of the changes in the drawings claim to address the tree protection zone, but again, we don't have comments back from staff on it.
And based on that, I would like to move a motion to defer because I'd like to have some further clarity on the application.
Fair enough, Mr. Dalton.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so the motion to defer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sorry, you're deferred.
Yep, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Take
Fellow
care.
committee members, have a great day.
Is that it for our deferrals? Okay, so we'll head back to the top of the agenda, back to item 1. So item 1 is 16 GORT Avenue, and this is an application to construct a covered deck in the rear yard. There are 3 variances being requested. We have on file a support petition with 8 signatures, and we have advisory comments from Metrolinx. Paige Ritchie is the agent.
Good morning,
And
committee members.
good
My name
morning.
is Paige Reitha, and I'm the applicant for this.
Okay, welcome. We can get a brief overview, and then if there's any questions.
Yep. So the homeowners want to construct a covered deck. This will be a 2-tiered deck. They're doing a bunch of landscaping in the backyard as well. So that's also shown on the site plan, and that is why primarily we're asking for the soft landscaping variance. We also have a side yard setback for the covered deck on the north side of the property. And we're just over the lot coverage by 3.5%.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members? No? Okay, seeing none, is anyone ready for a motion?
Sure. I'd like to move a motion. I believe this application is very straightforward. It meets the 4 tests, and move a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton.
Thank you.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Reddick, all in favor?
I just wanted to add a friendly, I don't think it's an amendment, but I just wanted to make note of the fact that there is a Metrolinx advisory, that's all.
I did mention that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Reddick, I believe, seconded that motion. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 2, 78 RAVENSCREST Drive. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 2 variances being requested. Forestry is requesting condition 1 in the event of approval, and TRCA has a approval letter on file.
Good morning, Chair and councilors. My name is Christian Renamato, owner of 78 Ravenscrest.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
I don't think we need a full presentation.
Definitely not. No, it's been the application's been approved. We're good. It's yeah, we had some minor changes following construction.
Okay, if members have any questions, I'll open it up for that. Any questions? No?
Motion?
If you're ready.
I'm ready. This too is a very straightforward application. Based on that, I believe it meets the 4 tests. I move a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Popovic. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, sir.
By all the councilors.
Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, item 3, 5 straight line. And this is an application to construct a deck in the rear yard. There is one variance being requested. There is one objector to the rear of the property on 28 Renone. The applicant or agent is Amelia Powell, and I believe online.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Also, the owner is here in case there's any questions, and we also have a neighbor who's online as well.
Okay, thank you. I think we're familiar with this property. We had a similar request not too long ago. So maybe we can start with a presentation from the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Just
morning.
to clarify, my first name is Amy Powell. Thank you. So I'd like to begin with my presentation, if that's okay. Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, members of the public, and staff in attendance. My name is Amy Powell, and I'm a registered professional planner and the Chief Planning Officer for Powell Planning and Associates, the planning consultant acting on behalf of the landowners of 5 Straight Lane, Peter Lee and Laura Park Lee under application A0255-24EYK. The subject application is seeking relief from the City of Toronto's zoning bylaw 2-2006, an OMB decision resulting in the provision for a maximum permitted 1.8 meter deck projection. This application seeks approval for a 1.2 meter depth from the 1.8 meter permitted rear yard deck projection standard to allow for the reconstruction of an existing limited in function second-story deck measuring 1.2 meters in depth to the reconstruction of a 3 meter depth deck. The existing backyard's depth is approximately 6.5 meters. With the approval of the requested variance, 3.5 meters would remain without the projection. This is material as there is a 3 meter utility easement along the rear lot line of the property that will remain fully unobstructed with full access. All other zoning standards are being respected with the reconstruction of the existing and permitted use. As a registered professional planner, I'm careful in evaluating and advancing the applications that I submit for approval. I was retained to assist the landowner of 17 Straight Lane with an appeal for a similar request in the fall of 2023, where a reconstruction of their second-story deck was sought before this committee. As mentioned in the comments of conditional opposition from Mr. Anadori of 28 Renown Road, that application was denied by this committee and successfully appealed at the Toronto Local Appeal Body with our office. I noted conditional opposition in accordance with Mr. Anadori's comments, as the application appears to be acceptable to Mr. Anadori on the contingency that additional planting is cost shared. However, there is already planting and foliage, which adds screening. Therefore, this condition for privacy has been met. This application has the same valid merits that were approved at TLAB from a planning policy perspective as well as a technical perspective, over that of privacy concerns that are addressed on site through existing plantings. Those most impacted from the proposal would be the neighbors in this townhouse block, and specifically those at 3 Straight Lane and 7 Straight Lane that share a common wall with 5 Straight Lane. Both of these neighbors have provided their signatures of support for the subject application, alongside the property management and 5 other neighboring residents who understand the hindrance of living on a smaller lot with reduced functionality within their rear yard amenity space. This hindrance is not a reality for Mr. Anadori, whose lot benefits from a more than 23-meter minimum rear yard depth. Planning policy and its technical standards conveys that deck projections can exist where there is an existing and a permitted use within a reasonable expansion from what the zoning permits. The opposition's dwelling is more than 42 meters or 141 feet away from the subject development being proposed at Straight Lane. That is 15 meters further away than what was approved by T-Lab at 17 Straight Lane. This application for 5 Straight Lane is only seeking a 0.7 meter greater variance than what was sought and now built at 17 Straight Lane, but its distance is more than 15 meters away from the opposition's house. This application respects the existing nearby trees and their canopies and benefits from generous foliage, which enhances the privacy of the subject site and provides ample screening concerning the vistas to and from 28 Renown Road. Each landowner is owed the opportunity to contextually convey their request for development, irrespective of a previous decision. There are houses in this block where there is inadequate foliage and screening and a distance of less than 42 meters away from 28 Renown Road, and those may cause a concern for development of this nature. 5 Straight Lane is not one of them. This application is contextually appropriate as the use already exists. It requests a minor expansion in depth of 1.2 meters with a more than 42-meter distance away from the opposing party. This application also benefits from being well screened by existing foliage, adding privacy to the site's second story. The approval of 17 Straight Lane indicates that this application seeks a gradual and sensitive change that is undetectable for more than 42 meters away. All things considered, and in my professional planning opinion, this application is contextually appropriate and represents good planning. Thank you for the ability to present the application this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. I also neglected to mention, I'll mention it now, that in the additional materials for panel members, there are photos as well as a support petition. Okay, do we have, I guess we have residents in support online?
I don't know if they're in support or not, but we have a person at 28 Renown Road, Kareem Anaduri, and I will unmute them right now.
Oh, sorry. From
Hello.
That's the objector, right?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, hello?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, surprise, surprise. We're back here again. Same complex, different unit.
Can we get your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, name is Kareem Anaduri, 28 Renown Road. Property directly behind the entire complex, the townhouse.
Can I just note that when I look at the plans or the drawings, the property that's directly behind is actually 5189 Dundas Street West. Is that not correct? You actually would view this on an angle.
This is correct, yes. We see it at an angle from our backyard. Yeah. Yeah, if you look at the image 1, image 2, more so image 3, you get a better idea of what we're exposed to. So we see the entire balcony when we're positioned basically on the right half of our backyard. So the development of this property is already unusually close to our house. The rear yard setback is 5.5 meters. So the city already allowed them to be unusually close to us by an extra 2 meters than your standard 7.5 meter rear yard setback. So already this whole thing comes with a privacy issue to begin with. Hence why we've been slowly over the years planting trees here and there. But as you could imagine, it takes time to grow trees. And if you want to buy fully mature trees, they tend to be a little bit more costly. So, I mean, at this point, to avoid the whole going to T-Lab and whatnot, I'm willing to just let them do their thing. Just if they could just help us cover the cost of a tree or two. I'm assuming, I said 3 trees when I look at it, but possibly it could only end up being 2 trees. And, you know, I would be happy with that if the neighbor is okay with that, just splitting the cost 50-50. And that's all I really got to say. I mean, you guys can see the pictures, you see it for yourself. What's that? What? Sorry, my dad has Parkinson's. He's trying to tell me something.
Okay, is that it for your presentation then?
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's basically
you.
all I have to say. Yeah. Yeah.
Any questions from panel members? No? Okay. Is there anyone else in the room or online to speak to this item? If not, I'll come back to the applicant then.
1 second, Mr. Chair. I will just unmute Amy Powell, who is the agent. Okay, Amy, you are now unmuted.
Thank you.
So I think you've already made your position clear that you feel there's already sufficient green screening from your proposal, unless there's anything else you want to add to that. Because I don't think he was asking for anything else.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. We've tried to visually display how when the trees are in full foliage, there is quite a bit of screening afforded. It's not afforded to every lot that kind of exists in that townhouse block going to the north, but this site is one that benefits from some existing screening and foliage, which is when at the time of year that the outdoor space would be most well utilized.
Absolutely.
So we do believe that privacy has been well achieved just by the sheer nature of the existing foliage there.
Okay, thank you.
It would also, by looking at the photographs, it would seem that you face the commercial property as opposed to the residence. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the committee member, that is absolutely correct. When you look at the angles of this site, again, it's different than the directness that 21, 19, 15, 13 would face. This site is really, it couldn't be much further away from the subject property's opposition. The greatest impact, I do believe, would be for 5186. That does front onto Dundas Street, and they haven't provided any comments of opposition. Perhaps, again, because it's a commercial operation, when the backyard would be, the second story deck would be utilized, it may not be of any impact or significance. So yeah, the angle of the site matters and the foliage matters as well in terms of proximity.
Thank you.
So a question to you, Amy, is the objector referred to image number 3. So image number 3, where is the site on image number 3?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the committee member. So do you see that opening to the left, if you will? It would be closer, I think, to 7 Straight Lane, but there's like a green, a green tarp, if you will. I believe that may be their house. It's just beyond the tree's foliage.
Thank you.
Yes, where the cursor's
Yep, that's
indicating.
what I figured.
There's a little
Thank you.
peekaboo spot.
That's right. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll take it into committee. Does anyone, the only comment I want to make is I think we did turn down, as everyone knows, we turned down a previous applicant, which was much closer to the same objector. And I believe everyone understands the difference between this one and that one, and the fact the other one was appealed anyway and got approved. Yeah. And just the rationale that we originally thought was that if one applies for this, they're all going to apply for this. That was the rationale for turning it down. But as I say, this particular one faces the commercial area, or rather than the residential area.
Yeah. And on that basis, I'd like to move a motion to approve the application, as I believe it meets the 4 tests.
With no conditions.
With no conditions.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, application is approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 4 is 1641 and 1677 Jane Street. This is an application to construct a new retail building, and there are 9 variances being requested. Robert McFarland, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, just to let you know, Mr. McFarland, of course, is here in the chambers, as you can see, but there's also a neighbor as well who wasn't on the list originally.
I see. So I don't have that person.
No, but they will give their name and address. We'll
Okay.
call them up.
All right. I guess given that, perhaps we should do a bit of a presentation.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Rob McFarland. I'm a senior associate planner with Zelenka Priamo in the city of Toronto. We represent the owner Choice Properties REIT, Ontario Properties Limited, for the site here at Jane and Lawrence. I have a brief presentation, but considering there are 9 variances, I might wait to hear the specific comments from the neighbor to address that. Generally speaking, though, the variances, in my opinion, are technical in nature. It's to construct a new Shoppers Drug Mart retail and pharmacy facility and demolish the existing Salvation Army building that you see on the north end of the site here.
So
as a result of
the no frills is remaining.
The no frills to the south would remain as is. Yeah, okay. Correct. And so given the status of the demolition and reconstruction of the building, most of the variances are an improvement over the existing condition, in my opinion. And certainly we'd welcome any comments from the neighbors and look to address those. But without knowing exactly what those concerns might be, I might leave my time and wait to hear from the neighbor.
Thank you. Sorry, so if we can go to...
The neighbors in the council chambers.
Sorry, I thought it was online. Okay. Good morning. Can we just get your name and address, please?
It's Stuart Carmichael, and I'm from 2 Martini Drive, which is immediately behind the parking lot. I just had a bunch of questions about the one of them he's already answered, that I was wondering what the purpose of the building is. Apparently we're getting a new Shoppers. I was wondering how long the construction would take and whether they'd be blocking the sidewalk. I can't point, but beside the current building where the bus stop is. And then I had a bunch of kind of technical questions. So in item 1 and 2, it says that the height of the new building would be 8.23 meters, but they're also asking that the height of and that it would be 1 story, and then it says that the new building will have a first story ceiling of 2.89 meters. What happens to the other 5 meters approximately? I don't understand. The second question I had was for number 3, it says the difference of the offset. Is that the current parking setup? It sounds to me like that's what is already there. Another one was for section 5. It says that the vehicle access to the road site would be over part of the lot in the residential zone. Is that it looks like it's the same setup they had before. And then a total of 3 vehicle access. That seems to me like that's the existing setup as well. And the other thing was they wanted to have, my biggest concern was item 4. It says loading zone space may not be located in any side yard or yard that abuts resident. It says the proposed loading space will be located in the rear yard that abuts the lot line, the residential zone. One of my complaints of having the no frills right beside us for the many years I've lived there is that they come by and pick up the garbage at 4 in the morning and it's very noisy. And so I'm wondering if this is going to be the same thing, and also whether they'll be getting deliveries in the middle of the night, or if that will be more of a daytime thing. I had a couple of other concerns just with the no-frills, but I won't be bringing those up because they're not part of this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just to clarify, if it is an existing situation, but the existing situation doesn't meet the current bylaw, it'll still come up as a variance. So perhaps they can explain what's actually new and what's actually going to be the same.
So, Mr. Chair, I might take a moment to address each of those
Please.
in turn. So in terms of construction, we still have to go through a site plan approval application process. This is the prerequisite to get zoning compliance before we can submit for site plan. As part of that process, we'd submit a construction management plan and certainly look to minimize any disruption to the community through that process, and staff would be a part of reviewing that, that material. In terms of the building height, I can certainly understand the confusion and the discrepancy there. The zoning bylaw has two different standards, one of which is a minimum ground floor building height, and so that is 4.5 meters typically. The portion of the building that's for the pharmacy, it's set with a lower height. And so the zoning will take that at the lowest point of the building. And so just to differentiate that site, or that portion of the building for the pharmacy. If you've been into another Shoppers Drug Mart, sometimes they have lower heights in that location to differentiate and make a more enclosed space. So that's the reason for that variance. And then the difference between the actual minimum building height is that's the number of floors and the actual total height, not just the first floor. And so that provision typically is expecting mixed use type of redevelopment, multiple floors, given that this designation and zoning is for a mix of uses. So they're looking to keep it as a retail function, one story, but improve on the existing condition in terms of that zoning provision, have a slightly smaller height overall. In terms of the vehicular access, there's a bit of a technicality in the zoning bylaw, I would call it. The landowner purchased a residential lot as part of the initial construction of this site back in the late 90s. They went through a rezoning process for that portion, and you can see there on the northeast corner, the cursor there. They went through a zoning bylaw amendment process, but ended up dropping that zoning bylaw amendment process in favor of a minor variance back in the late 90s, which allowed for vehicular access over that portion of the lot. Again, it's a technicality not to allow for commercial activities to go over residential lots, but because it's consolidated with this property for all intents and purposes, in my opinion, it's still functioning as that commercial property, notwithstanding that the underlying zoning is residential. So it would be effectively maintained as is in terms of that access, improved slightly actually. And in terms of the number of vehicular access points, we're actually removing one vehicular access point along Jane, but otherwise the access points would remain as is. I believe so, yeah. Yeah, and so there would be 3 access points, one strictly for the loading activity and garbage pickup for the no-frills, one full moves along Jane, and then the one along Lawrence as well.
Sorry, there's no back and forth at this point.
Yeah, and then so I think the final comment was with respect to the loading zone. As part of this process, we're certainly not making any revisions to the no-frills, but I'll certainly pass on the comment about the loading activities to our client and make sure loading activities are occurring during appropriate hours.
And just as a general comment, you can always follow up with bylaw standards if they start doing it 4 in the morning.
Certainly, and I would suggest that as well. And in terms of the loading activity for the new Shoppers Drug Mart, that again gets triggered because we're reconstructing the building, but it's an existing condition, and I can provide you with some of the existing photos which were submitted as part of the application, but loading effectively occurs in that area currently, but it's totally unscreened, it's open, there's open garbage storage there, and as part of the redevelopment, we're putting in a screening wall in that area. So the whole loading activity would be in the same location, but it would be totally screened from the neighbors. There would be landscaping in that green area on the screen. And so the intent is to mitigate any issues. In terms of the loading location, it's really the only logical space for us to load. We can't really load on frontages facing the Lawrence or Jane, and then certainly loading on the south where it faces the parking lot might have safety concerns. You might have conflicts with traffic and pedestrians. So it's really the only logical space to load. So we're trying to minimize any disruptions as much as possible. So hopefully that answers your questions.
Okay, we're going to leave it at that, sorry. You guys can exchange numbers and work all that out later.
I have a couple of questions.
Thanks.
So I know this building very well because I bought many of my children's Halloween costumes in this building. And it was in bad shape then. This is an improvement over the existing condition for sure, but I wonder if Choice REIT has given any thought to building, since it is mixed use, have you given any thought to building residential above? And also, there is a very large Shoppers Drug Mart on Weston Road north of Lawrence, which isn't far from there, but it's within the Weston Village BIA. I'm just wondering if there are any plans to close that Shoppers in view of the opening here.
Yeah, no, I don't believe there are any plans to close that Shoppers Drug Mart. I'm certainly not involved directly with Loblaws in their decision-making in terms of new location, in their pro forma and what markets they want to serve. So I'm not aware of that being closed down.
Because that would be a loss to the BIA for sure.
Yeah, certainly. I'm not aware of it being closed down or any plans for it. Okay. And in terms of, sorry, what was your first question again?
Residential above, because it is mixed use.
Yeah, certainly. I think that would probably be for a future date. Currently, there's no plans. Choice Properties has a large retail portfolio and is kind of a sister company to Loblaws.
They are developing the properties at Eglinton, near the Crosstown station, on Eglinton, near Mount Dennis, actually.
Yeah, certainly they do have a residential mixed-use portfolio. This isn't part of that right now.
Not right now.
It might be future slated, but near term, no.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions or ready to take it into committee? Thank you. If there's no other discussion, is anyone ready for a motion?
I think I'm ready for a motion. I do believe this is a vast improvement over an existing condition. I believe it's desirable and meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act and move for approval. I don't think there are any conditions, are there?
No.
With no conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Ruddick. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. Okay, shall we keep going? No one's interested in doing a mid-morning break yet? Okay. So item 5 is 3100 and 3200 Bloor Street West, and also 4, 6, and 8 Montgomery Road. And you guys are almost frequent flyers because you've been here before. This is for a parking deficiency to accommodate a new 16-story mixed-use building. There's one variance being requested, which is a number of parking spaces. A previous decision, the applicant had the parking spaces reduced from 362 to 320. We have advisory comments from TTC and a letter of objection from 9 Michael Power.
Mr. Chairman, just to let you know, we also have one area resident who's in the council chambers as well, who are not on the list.
No problem. We can accommodate that. Okay, so before you proceed, perhaps you can explain a point of confusion for me. So you're Cam Smith, right?
Yeah, that's me, correct.
So I forgot to mention that. Previously, we did an approval to reduce from 362 to 320 and some other reductions as well in parking. So if 362 was previously the number as the required number of parking spaces, why are we now looking at 371 as a required number of parking spaces? What's changed?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah. So basically the change here is that the number of units have increased from 345, which is what the unit count was last time we were here,
I see.
to 354. And because of that, the initial rate in the zoning bylaw was one space for 1.05 per
Right.
units, and so that technically changes the wording of the variance.
Okay, so what's your ratio now?
The proposed ratio is one space for every 0.5 units.
Okay.
Sorry, 0.75, excuse me.
0.7.
0.75 unit parking spaces per unit, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Proceed with your presentation, sorry.
Sure. If we could just go to the first slide.
I'm going to reset the timer for you because you were just answering a question now.
Sure, thank you. Okay, so good morning, Chair, members of the committee, staff. Thanks for being here today. My name is Cam Smith. I'm with Tridel, who own the site. Also with me today is Gavin Bailey, who's again with Tridel. As you noted, we did get an approval 11 months ago, September of 2023, at this committee for this site, also related to parking, as you noted, and I'll go over that just in detail in a minute. But just to provide a brief overview, if you wouldn't mind going to the first slide, scrolling up to the top. I think there's one more. Perfect. So this is just our site. It's at the northwest corner of BLOOR and Montgomery. It's comprised of a former auto dealership, 3 single-family homes on Montgomery, and it's bisected partly by the Line 2 TTC track. Next slide, please. So this is just the architect's current rendering of the project. This is looking northwest from the south side of Bloor Street. Next slide, please. So here's our current site plan, excuse me. The site, the zoning and official plan amendment for the site were approved in 2022 through the OLT. Since then, we've been working with staff through the site plan application process. So it's a 16-story building with steps significantly to the north and the east, with 354 now residential units. And as I mentioned, as we discussed, there was a previous approval for 4 variances. 3 of them are related to reducing the parking count from 417 at the time to 339, and then a 4th variance for a percentage of obstructed parking spaces. Next slide, please. So just to provide some context as to why we're here today. So through the site plan approval process in the last year, we've undergone a redesign of the underground parking lot just to gain better efficiencies. This is just a comparison of the P1 level underground on the left from where we were a year ago to on the right to where we are today. As you can see, the floor plate of the underground is reduced, and instead of a 2-story larger floor plate, we've moved to a 3-story, much further reduced floor plate there. Next slide, please. So just to provide some context for the area, the site is well located in terms of a transportation network. We're 350 meters from Royal York, 600 meters from Islington Station. Both of these stations, of course, also have bus routes that come out of their station basically directly in front of our site. There's also a new bike lane right on Bloor Street in front of the site. So the site is well located for other modes of transportation. I'd also just like to note that the proposed parking rate certainly meets Council's direction for parking for new developments across the city. We can go to the next slide, please. And this is just a comparison of the current approval, as in the approval that we received last year at this committee, to what we're proposing today. So what was approved in September of last year was 320 residential spaces, 19 visitor spaces, and no retail parking. All we're here for today is to reduce that residential parking count by 55 spaces from 320 to 265. As I mentioned, 0.75 spaces per unit, no change to the visitor or retail parking. So the new total would be 284 parking spaces. With that, we haven't received any comments from staff that I'm aware of. We believe this variance meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, is appropriate for the use of land and minor in nature. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from panel members? No?
I have a question. It looks to me, I'm looking at the map of the Kingsway BIA, it looks to me like this property is within those boundaries, is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
It extends past Montgomery Road on BLOOR.
Yes.
On the north side.
Correct.
So is there commercial at grade in this building?
Yes, there is commercial grade.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I believe there's someone else who's interested in making a deputation. Adam?
Mr. Chairman, there is a person by the name of John Anton Prince from 20 Montgomery who is here in the chambers.
Please. Welcome.
Hey, welcome. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councilors. My only question is...
Can we just get your name?
Sure, John Prince, 20 Montgomery Road.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, my only question really is, as we live in this beautiful part of the city, we constantly are bombarded with less and less parking. So the biking lanes has reduced a number of parking spaces that the city, I think, didn't really count on. And if you live in this area, it's a disaster on the weekend because these people don't know where to park. So taking out 100 plus parking spaces or even more tells me that I'm going to be flooded. The neighborhood's going to be flooded. They're going to start parking in places they shouldn't be parking. They're doing it now. So what's happening with the 100 spaces that they're going to take out, right? They got to park. These people are not taking transportation day in and day out. They're parking. They're driving a car. So the reduction to me is not recommended. That's my view. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Just before we go.
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then we'll come back to Cam.
Thank you for the concern. I would just say that the reduction is 55 spaces from what was previously approved in September of last year. And the parking ratio we're proposing of 0.75 spaces per unit.
Please only address the chairman.
The new rate is certainly still, I would argue, even well above what the parking standard would be if this was a new application in the city, and certainly reflects the city's position on parking for new developments.
You're talking about resident parking.
Yeah,
in
and
any case, you're not talking about visitor parking.
Yeah, that was just going to be my last point. With this is just for residential spaces for people who live in the building.
Owners of the
building that we would sell to them directly. This is not for the visitor parking.
I don't recall. Are you providing any visitor parking?
We are providing 19 spaces, which is consistent with the new minimums across the city.
And that's what we approved at the previous.
That's correct.
Committee. Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that this particular development is within 400 meters of a major transit station. That's the magic number.
Just.
Which is a 6-minute walk.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions from panel members? No, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, we're good then. We'll take it into committee. Any discussion? No? If someone's ready, I'd welcome a motion.
Sure. I'd like to move a motion for approval. I believe the application meets the 4 tests. The applicant did provide a very good transportation study that indicated that the rate they are providing is higher than others in the area, and based on that, I'd move a motion for approval. And there are no conditions.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, we have unanimous approval. Thank you. I was just going to ask again, yeah. So should we do a, 10-minute? Okay. So 50, we're back at 10:45 then?
I didn't get a copy of the agenda, but.
Oh, yeah, we have it right here.
Oh, jeez, okay. Thanks very much. Ooh.
That's what I don't like.
That's
Is
fair.
any one of these guys rents for a year, they don't give on who they're renting to. Yeah. Because it's a communist country now, and they have all the rights. No, I tried it. Even with my relatives, I tried years ago. I renovated a house up on just north of Shepherd. You know that can't remember, it was Linden New, it was Barrowville. Yeah, and it was right on the green space behind there. Beautiful little section. So I fixed it up, sold it to one of my relatives, and of course after 1 year it was, I'm sorry, I can't pay this month. Okay, and then after a year of not paying, and I was using that money to pay the mortgage. There was a little mortgage. I just said, enough's enough. You gotta leave. And it was another year and a half before he left. And then when I walked in, the place was trapped. It was just horrible. Yeah.
I used to get coffee here or no?
Well,
I gotta go
say
outside?
that, and I've got my place in town, I'm renting it out. Yeah, I'm renting
Okay.
it out to, responsible people. There's been no damage. It's a condominium, so, all the walls are concrete. What can they do? Not tomorrow. If anything, I've got a job now. I work for my company I used to work for in the 80s. I worked there for 12 years. I finished in 92.
I better not.
So they called me up 2 years ago and asked me to come back, and I said, no, I don't want to do it. And then they just called me up again and want me to come back, so I went back. And that's full time, but I mean, I could have singled for another $40,000 a year, then I wouldn't have to work like 10 hours a day. I said, just pay me what you would pay a kid coming home. Don't buy me. And so it's great. It's more than I made on all the other jobs I had. And he pays me for my car, for my gas, an expense account, so I can have my lunches and do whatever I want. And yeah, I mean, I just spent yesterday. I went down to the Niagara Peninsula. 2 days before that, I went up to Owen Sound and drove by my old cottage and in the cemetery where all my relatives are buried. So I got to do that. It's pretty good. I enjoy it. Selling chemicals is what I did for 40 years. So it's just starting from zero again. It's tough. Yeah. So we'll see. I can initially, now it's changed a lot. Okay, now if you call them, they never answer the phone. You get the voicemail, and you leave a message. You wait 2 weeks, they don't call back, you call again. Then, what I found is the easiest way is just to drive there, knock on the door. Hi, I'm here to see Joe Ball. Well, he's working from his home this week. Okay, who else can I talk to? And then there's a lady there usually that says, well, you came all this way. They give me 2 or 3 names. council in the department or someone else who makes the decision. So at least I have something to start with, you know? But most of these companies go through procurement divisions. You have to get approved to bid it, then you have to wait for the contract to come up. So it's a long process. It'll take a couple of years before we start getting in these things. Maybe I'll walk into one that's, you know, ready to go in another week or two. But that's not going to happen. I retired already once. You know? I lived in Panama for 10 years, didn't do anything, walked down the beach, you know, swim in the pool, and that gets boring after a while. So that's why I wanted to get back and do something. I was doing irrigation there for 3 years, and it was fine, you know, but this last year, not this year, the year before, summer was so hot, and you're out there, you know, the job I had was service, it wasn't so bad. When that ended, beginning of August, the next 2 or 3 weeks, it was just straight out, you know, doing installs, where you're in the yard, you're 5 to 10 hours. I said, forget this. I mean, after 9 hours of, you know, 32-degree heat, I said, I was bushed. So then I took a job with this beer company to do all the soccer fields in Toronto. They had 145 soccer fields. So I got about 50 of them done, you know, started them up and made all the repairs and everything. And then the city of Toronto had one of their accounts invested $15 million. Yeah, we didn't hear that on the radio. No. So this guy got away with $15 million, and so the town council, i.e. these guys, had to cut budgets. So they looked at anybody who didn't do the job themselves, and irrigation was on. So they're not going to do any irrigation this year on these fields. They're just going to burn. But it's better than you know, cutting back where they save us $500 million or whatever it was. No. And so we worked with a company that was unionized. They actually got the contract with a subcontractor. Well, whatever. I don't know. It was. I made my you know, $30 an hour. That's all I cared. So I was happy until we lost the business, and then I was sitting there collecting unemployment now. So and then my buddy called me up from Vancouver and says, "Hey, you want a job doing this?" And I said, So I'm doing that. Polymers for settling aids. So if you've got a large, you know, when you're drinking water, it goes into a big clarifier. Okay. Well, they used to add ferric chloride years ago. That's why your tub was brown. Well, they're not supposed to because the ferric chloride isn't used in water anymore. They use alum or they use polyvinyl chloride. So we saw polyvinyl chloride, and then you add a little bit of what they call flocculant that helps it settle down really, you know, quickly. So I do that, and then the poop goes to various plants in Toronto. There's 2. Well, the Etobicoke one is actually not part of Mississauga. It's down, it's Booth, GE Booth. It's down on the lakeshore. Toronto has, the ones that I do are Ashbridges Bay and Hyden. Those 2 actually take, and there's a dozen pumping stations that go there. And then there's the odd one that has the anaerobic digestion, but then they pump the solids or truck the solids to those 2 plants. But those 2 plants dewater them. And they take the stuff that's made 2%, they go into a thickener, and then from a thickener they go into a centrifuge, and then it comes out 28%. And from the 28%, there's one company that has a pelletizer right beside it, and they heat it up, sanitize it, heat it up over 190, sanitize it, and then they make it into little pellets, and then they sell it as fertilizer. Whereas some of the ones, the one down on Mississauga, they burn. You know, they get it up to 20%. Hamilton burns it. Stuff that's created scraped out of Pickering, Dason, and then all of the other little towns, they put them in fields. So that's what I do now, and then the third area I would go into, which is the last one I want to tackle, is the mining industry. There's about a dozen boulders and 7 timbers. So I used to go up as far as Kapuskasing. I used to have all of the businesses there. They're all gone. So I used to fly to Timmins and then either drive to Kapuskasing if there was no flights because of snow, or I would fly to Timmins and grab another public charter to Kapuskasing. Oh yeah, all the Montgomery guy. That was 35 years ago. So it's a 12-hour drive from here to settling the closest cold DENISON. There's a resident in there, so before between now and the time the snow falls, I will take a week and I'll drive over there. I'll get 10 of them all lined up in a week, go 6, 3, 8 days, drive home on Monday, drive back on Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, see the 10 Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, everything's beautiful.
Yes, I was a teenager, 13 with my parents. I drove. It was beautiful.
And that's what you have to do now. You get for a house.
I know. How long have you been in the townhouse?
As long as you can. As long as you can. Why? Because it's not going to go down. Every time they approve one of these things, I'm waiting for the. I won't see it, but in another 50 years, they're going to approve a lane to go through all the people who live on GAYDON and all the people who live on.
What do you mean a lane?
A lane that goes right down between the properties, and they'll subdivide all of ours. No, for sure. That's the next step. No one thinks about that. They did that in Scarborough.
Never heard of that.
Yeah.
They did that in Scarborough when we had our property for when the metal belt.
What do you mean a lane?
They would
I don't understand.
the people would sell their backyards and they would put a road on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they want to do with those same science schools. That's why Patricia keeps complaining.
Yeah.
They want to put a road in.
Yep.
Road in where? On their street?
From Wallasey down,
Okay.
halfway down where the school was. Houses on both sides.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. And because this is the next step. Is you know,
You won't be here.
yeah, the next step is building right up to the property line. The next step after that is going 2 stories or 3 stories or 4 stories. And then the city says, well, you know, we need more housing. Okay, instead of 2 families in there, give me 4 families in there. Sure. Illegally they're doing it.
What about up the street? What do you think that's going to do?
No, but nothing's huge. It's gargantuan.
That's crazy.
But these guys don't remember this. I grew up across that street. And when I grew up, there was 1 family. I remember that. And then they divided it in 2. Then they divided it in 3. So now, the property that's there now used to be twice as wide and 3 times as wide. So 56. And same thing with Mrs. Stanley, who's beside me. Her property was divided into 3. Yeah. So instead of having 1 neighbor, now I have 3 people looking into
What about the music last week? Did you hear the karaoke? We complained once. The bylaw. That's what it's saying. It does. Like as long as you're not doing it past 2 o'clock in the morning.
I don't know what
they had a karaoke.
Was it a wedding or was it?
I don't know. We went up Sunset because we had to go somewhere.
Because I said, okay, I want to see which one.
Sunset's totally correct. Stratford's left.
Well, they're lucky they didn't have a bike lane there. Otherwise, they would have gotten all those tickets.
Not
Did you
yet.
hear that guy? Yeah. But you know, this is the same thing. They all approved that. All of the unanimous. The poor guy who lives there says, "Where do I? You can't park in front of my house as a bike lane." Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just before you go down Etobicoke Mills, he was trying to patio
Oh, yeah? The transfer. Why did our car last tonight? December, November. Broke down a month later. Transmission gone.
Oh,
They
gosh.
rebuilt it 7 months later, this July. A week later, and the kicker is we went to see the same folks in Kitchener.
Yeah.
I said to her, you can't believe it, Miss Mary. We're in Rockmont, guess what?
Yeah.
The car broke down.
Wow.
So now I refuse.
What does that teach you? Don't go to Kitchener.
So I said, do you know to everyone, we are not picking up the car until we have a meeting with the big boss. Because I already canceled one car on me. I said, don't cancel it, because we're coming to you at 2:30.
Okay, can we start back? It's going for 10:50 now.
So members, if I can get you to turn your video screens back on block. We will begin the hearing again, resume. If I can just get, okay, Natalia's screen's back on, perfect. Mr. Chair, we can proceed.
Thank you. Okay, so welcome back. We're at item 6, 24 GAYDON Avenue. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 5 variances being requested. Planning is requesting a condition of approval should we approve. Forestry is requesting pretty much everything. They're requesting a deferral or in the alternative, forestry condition 1, and they're also requesting forestry condition 2 in any case. And welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members.
So if we could get a, let me see, so 24, so Nick is the owner, okay, so there's no one else to speak on this item, just the applicant then?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so maybe just a brief overview.
Yep, not a problem. So to begin, my name is Oriana Nanoa, planner at Design Plan Services, 900 the East Small Suite 300 Toronto. I would just like to note that the applicant, Ida Evangelista, had a family emergency and cannot attend this meeting. Therefore, we have been retained to present the application. Through you, Chair, I would just like to address the recommended conditions from planning staff and urban forestry. We have reviewed the planning staff report dated August 6th, and they have raised no concerns about the proposal and recommend the condition that the development be constructed as illustrated on the site and elevation plans. And we are okay with this condition. And we have also reviewed the urban forestry report dated August 8th, 2024, and the forestry report dated August 6th, 2024. And we have no issues with the standard conditions 1 and 2 for a permit to injure or remove a city-owned or privately owned tree. However, we respectfully disagree with condition 4 for the recommendation to defer the application as we seek to work with urban forestry staff to address their concerns through the permitting process. It is my opinion that this is a straightforward application for a detached bungalow, and am of the opinion that it represents good planning and meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act under Section 45(1). Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
So just wanted to clarify, forestry does indicate in their memo that it be deferred until the owner provides the necessary information to confirm the trees are adequately protected. So has that been done or not? Or is it still in process of?
From my understanding, through you, Chair, it's still in the process of being discussed with urban forestry staff, and the owners and the applicants will proceed to discuss with urban forestry staff to address their concerns during the permitting process.
Okay, any other questions? And I guess forestry does provide the alternative that we just impose condition 1, so. Okay, and, yep, for sure. Seeing no other questions, and there's no one else here to speak to this item, we'll then take it into committee, so thank you.
So based on that, I'd like to move a motion. I believe the application meets the 4 tests, subject to the forestry and planning conditions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dalton. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
So item 7, we're on the same street, number 57 Gaydon Avenue. This is an application to construct a 2-story front addition and a 2-story addition connecting the detached garage to the dwelling and a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling and garage. There are 9 variances being requested. Planning also has a condition of approval, and there are forestry is requesting condition 2, and there are 6 objections to this application.
Mr. Chairman, just to let you know, everybody who is on your list is present, either in person or on WebEx. There's also one additional speaker in person who is not on the list, John Olson at
okay.
46 Gaydon Avenue.
Perfect, thank you. So the agent is online?
That's correct.
Okay, so can we start with the agent?
Mr. Chair, my name is Sarush Kalusian from HSK Design, 1800A Avenue Road.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think we're going to need a full presentation, so if you could delve into that.
Sure, no problem. I'll try to keep it short. So let me start off by explaining what's currently on the site. Currently, we have a single-story, single-family detached dwelling with a detached garage on the southwest corner of the property. And what we are proposing to do, as you mentioned, is to do an addition to the existing dwelling, predominantly towards the north side, towards Gaydon Avenue, and making the garage a 2-car garage and connecting to the existing dwelling. We are also adding a 2nd story, so it is a 2-story single-family dwelling with a basement suite. The only area that doesn't have a 2nd story is primarily above the existing detached garage. So the only like main wall setback situation that we have is regarding the existing location of the detached garage, which is variance number 2. We've also given the characteristic of this property. It's not like for example, the corner lot on the other side of Strathburn. This property, actually, the driveway is from the side yard setback, technically, which is Gaydon Avenue, and the driveway is almost towards the rear property line, coming into the detached garage. So we kind of pushed that driveway also further away from the rear property line, and we've made the garage. So we've kept the garage in that location, and we made it a 2-car garage. Other than that, I think the variances that we're asking for are pretty clear in nature. We did speak with planning staff to ensure that any of the variances are nothing out of the norm or outside the characteristics or setting any new precedents, which they're not. The only thing that planning staff did recommend, which we've made the adjustments on our drawings, is to make the driveway permeable paver to improve the runoff situation of the property. And we've done that. So other than that, I think the variances are pretty clear, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions specific to the variances.
Okay, thank you. If we can go through the speakers list then, we'll start with whoever's here in person. Is Walter here?
My name is Walter Delator. I live at 57 Gaydon Avenue. 51 Gaydon
50,
Avenue.
gotcha.
The one to the button up to the west side of them. And my main complaint is he's got almost no softscape left. But my main concern is the garage that he wants to build. Currently, there's basically a 5.5 foot high old wood garage. and he wants to build that up to about 16 feet. He can't use the existing foundations. At that height, it would be blocking all the sunlight coming into my dining room window. My also other concerns is how is he going to get workers to work on 18 inches of area without shoring it up and everything like that.
We'll let him answer that. Is there anything else specific to the design or the?
Well, I don't know how he's going to build on top of the existing home, which is basically a wood-clad one. And the garage is basically falling apart. So
I'm assuming the garage is going to be demolished.
Yes. And then he's going to turn it into a two-car garage, so he's going to be encompassing the area that's between the garage now and his existing one-story home. So, I mean, he's basically going to build a straight wall up beside my house. That's my main concern. And also having no softscape, I mean, where's all the water runoff going to go? Because he's got basically no property left.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're at 51, sir?
Pardon?
You're at 51, Gaydon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, anyone have any questions? No? Thank you. Okay,
We have one more person in the
in
chamber.
the chamber. Let's have them come up, please.
Mr. John Olson, 46 Gaydon Avenue.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Not too bad. So you're
All
at
right.
number 46?
Now I can hear you.
You're at number 46?
46 Gaydon since 1956.
Okay.
All right. And I wanted to give you a little context here because your decisions have a huge impact to the neighborhood. I've seen that property across the street go from a single-family dwelling, divided, subdivided, and subdivided again. Now that property, the original property, is half as wide and it's 1/3 as deep as it used to be. So you have now 4 homes on that existing property. The second thing is the council, or however you did it, changed the occupancy from single-family dwelling. Now you can have 2 families in there.
You can actually have 4.
Well, 4. Okay, wow. So now, instead of 1 family, you can have 16 families living in that area, the same space. Now, what kind of infrastructure do you have to go with that? Well, when I was a child, I used to walk down the street to Melody Road Public School. And you know what? It's not there anymore. You sold the land to somebody else. So where do the kids go to school? I don't know. I never followed up on that. But you're setting this up, not for today, not for tomorrow, or not for next week, but down the road, you're setting this up to be little postage stamps that used to have 900-square-foot bungalows in the middle of them, and now you want to put monster homes on them where you have to walk around the perimeter of the home and you've got 18 inches of space to walk around the house. So my question is, where's all the water that used to be absorbed by the grass and by the trees and everything else you had on the property? Where's all that water going to go? It doesn't go into the sewer because the city of Toronto stopped it from going into the sewer. Now it has to go on the land. Well, where's all that water going to spill out onto? It's not going to spill out onto his property because he's built up right up to the property lines. It's going to go to the neighbors, and they're going to experience all kinds of flooding issues. And are you going to be responsible for that when someone...
Okay, do you have any specific concerns
Yes,
related
I
to
wrote
the
a
actual
letter,
application?
and I wrote a letter, and I'm sure you've all read it. I was opposed to 7 out of the 9 variances. The most egregious is the back line setback, which is normally 7 meters, and he wants to reduce it to 0.5 meter. That is outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous that you could approve that. The second one is OSHA considerations. Walter mentioned, how are you possibly going to build 18 inches to the property line, put in a foundation, and how are you going to shore up the neighbor's property? Are you going to put in a wall so that you can work there? I just don't see, with what I know about building, I just can't see it. I think it would be a safety OSHA concern, and we're certainly going to complain to OSHA about it as well.
That's fine, because it's beyond our purview.
Well, it can't be beyond your purview. If you're saying he can build up to 18 inches, you have to understand.
Well, we're not saying that. That's what he's requesting.
That's right.
We're going to
Well, I'm
decide
saying
whether
I object to it strenuously. Okay.
Okay, you can object to it from a design or aesthetic perspective, but from a technical building perspective, that's not our business. That's the buildings department.
Well, I'm just trying to remind you that you're setting up this neighborhood to be subdivided. The next step is you'll want to have it to go up 4 stories.
We're not the ones making the application, the applicant is. And you're coming at this as if we are doing this, we are doing that. And I don't think you're winning any favor with the committee in making those statements.
Yeah, but it used to be that the lot sizes were 50 by 200 feet. And that got nibbled away. Now it's, I don't know what it is.
The city has grown. Things don't stay the same.
They don't stay the same.
You know, I remember there was tomato fields out on Kipling Avenue. Oh, they're not there anymore. You know?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
That's a good thing, actually.
Yeah, unless you have the infrastructure to support it. So where does the water go from his property? Where are the children are going to go to which schools are they going to go to? Those are the implications that by your decisions today are going to impact other people in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, the other people on our list that are on WebEx are present, and I did sound check them earlier.
Okay, so the next one in line, I believe, is Alan.
Alan Philippe, yes, and I will be unmuting them momentarily. Okay, Alan, you are now unmuted and you can speak.
Hi, my name's Alan Philippe. I live at 45 Strathburn Boulevard. My concerns go against a couple of variances. The amount of space he's willing to take up, and once again, due to water runoff. That's a school zone, so if it does go to the street, it's going to go across the sidewalks and create ice for the children who all walk to the school down the street. He's going to dwarf the house next to him, as well as I feel that the water runoff will probably flood all the houses next to him. I think he's requested a large deck over top of his garage, which, if you read my letter, says that he will now have an observation deck over the backyards of the people who live by him. Just the amount of area that being taken up, it just won't. It's not conducive with the area. We have large homes on large lots. Now we're looking for a large home on a tiny little lot. I just don't feel that the amount of space that he's taking up and the landscaping that's being given up is appropriate.
Okay, do you have any?
That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from panel members for the last deputant? No? Okay. Sandra or Salvatore?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So Salvatore and Sandra Castiglione, you are now unmuted.
Thank you.
Good morning, welcome. Just,
Sorry.
can you just speak up a little bit?
Oh, okay. This is Sandra from Sandra Salvatore Castiglione. We're at 46 Strathburn. We have major concerns. The property is just 2 lots away from us. We have major concerns that there are multiple variances requested. Several variances requested are major variances, and my husband will speak to points 2, 5, 8, and 9 in our letter in a few minutes. Minimal soft landing, concerns with water absorption, as a previous caller has mentioned, during rainfall and snow melting. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, so your husband's going to, so you're going to do a bit of a tag team, but you're going to confine yourself within the 5 minutes. Okay, that's fine.
We can do that.
Yes,
We know that.
yes.
We know that. Thank
Okay.
you. So we're concerned with the privacy of adjacent homes, as previously mentioned, obstruction of natural lighting, It wasn't clear because it's such a small lot and this is a large home, whether it's going to be a tenant property, especially with, it seems like he's setting up for a rental property or for the basement to be rented out. So with the multiple entrances, we're concerned it's going to be a multi-tenant property. So we have major concerns with potential parking in the area. And being, of course, a school zone, we're concerned about that. I'm going to let my husband speak to the percentages and details on the.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Yes, these
We need
variances.
your name for the record, sir.
Yes, Salvatore Castiglione, 46 Stratburn. So these variances, the letter came out from you folks and they call them minor. I don't believe these are minor. Absolutely not. These are major variances. This application is misleading. Now I'll go into the detail. Item number 2, the rear yard setback. This is a drastic adjustment to the city's request. It is a 93% reduction. I repeat, a 93% reduction. The next variance, number 5, the rear platform above the second story. This is a 53% variation. 53, I repeat. Item number 8, the landscape of the side yard. This is a 25% reduction of the side yard abutting GAYDON. Number 9, this is the landscape side yard, 40% reduction of landscaping. I don't know how the representative from the rear guard said that the planning staff, that these are part of the norm. How can these be part of the norm? This is a mockery of the bylaws, of the zoning bylaws. These variances are drastic once again. They're going to be set procedure for all other homes. If we let this go by, then anybody can build anything else in our neighborhood. The potential overflow, the way it seems that it's going to be a multi-tenanted units, and there's going to be a whole bunch of cars, and they're going to be going over on first on GAYDON and then Stratford, which is our home is 2 homes away, and the other homes, and this is a pathway that kids go to school on Stratford. Okay. The other items, item number 1 reduces the natural ground for water absorption during rainfall and snow melting. Item number 3 is a 12% increase. Item number 4, the structure can be built without increased item first. This is a 9% increase. Item number 7 is a 22% increase. So, as I said, once again, I strongly object, and my neighbors strongly object. We've had many conversations with many neighbors in the area. That's why they're present on or have written emails. And this would be a disaster of what this proposal is. I hope Mr. Chair and the committee take all our thoughts and opinions into consideration and reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from panel members?
Just a comment with regards to the setback reduction for the rear yard from 7.5 to 0.52 meters. That's just simply recognizing the existing condition. That is where the existing garage stands.
They're building higher, but they're building higher.
Slightly, yeah, okay.
No,
anyone else? Well, it's not the full house that's going up at that point.
It's 16 feet high.
Yeah, it's higher, for sure.
Yeah, now you got 5.5.
Okay. Is there anyone else with questions for the current applicant?
Well,
Sorry, deputant.
Since the owner of number 51 is speaking, I'd actually like to ask him since it's a relatively new build, I'd actually like to ask him what your lot coverage is on your lot. Do you happen to know?
My lot coverage is under the minimum. Oh, sorry.
It's under 30% of the lot area?
Mine is actually less than the minimum. It's less than minimum when the
Okay.
house was built.
Because he's asking for 33%. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that because it is a relatively new build and it is a fairly large home comparatively speaking. But
His home will be about the size of mine.
oh, okay, but you're objecting to his home being built.
I'm being complaining about the rear setback going from 7.5 meters to half a meter.
Which in reality is a side yard setback because of the way the
Members,
the house is
if we're
situated.
letting him speak, you now have to let the agent rebut.
We got it, we're going to get there, we're going to get there, sorry.
They're only afforded one opportunity.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is there anyone else before we go back to the agent?
Mr. Chairman, not on my list, and
No one in the room?
we've vetted everybody in the room, so.
Okay. All right, so let's get the agent back.
Mr. Kalustian, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. Thanks, committee members. Yeah, I heard, I also had read over all the objection letters. And I just want to reiterate what you guys mentioned, is that we are not adding to the rear setback in any way. Yes, we are making the existing, sistering the existing studs, making that existing garage taller to make it a better use of space as a garage, but we are not adding anything more towards the rear. Yes, we may require potentially, because we don't know what the structure is under the garage, to do some sort of a underpinning work there to sustain the structure. And if we need to do a shoring, then that's something that the code examiner during the building permit process will review and let us know, and we'll have to do shoring drawings. So in regards to water runoff, we've already had this discussion with the planning staff as well. We've made the whole driveway permeable paver, which shouldn't impact, it shouldn't really, have a major runoff situation because the water will be seeping through in that whole area. And, if the neighbors are really concerned about the side yard landscaping, we don't mind making those pavers permeable as well, if that's a big concern for them. But other than that, the size of the house, the coverage percentage that we're asking, we are not setting any precedent. There's multiple homes in the area that do have that coverage percentage, and that was clarified by planning staff. The balcony came up above the
So did we lose you?
It's a 6 meter. It's not really. It's not really like there's really no direct impact in anybody's backyards with that balcony. It's facing GAYDON Avenue.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, sorry,
And in regards to, go ahead.
No, we thought we lost you, but it's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and in regards to multiple unit situation, we're proposing a single family dwelling with a basement suite, which is within the zoning bylaws. And in terms of parking, there's enough parking on the driveway that's being proposed. That's also within the zoning bylaws. So I don't see any particular major concerns here or anything that's really setting a precedent in the area or that's different. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions the committee has.
Okay, thank you. Are you not demolishing the existing garage?
We honestly, we haven't planned on that. We think, we don't know what the structure under the garage is yet, so it all depends on what that is. But if we have to underpin and keep the existing wall, we will. And
Okay,
work
so,
off of that.
that's not just, sorry, and I shouldn't actually be getting into this, but I'm curious now. So it's not just a slab? Like, do you actually have a wall?
We don't have any, we won't know that until we apply for a building permit and we gotta
Okay.
give them the.
All right, that's fair. I
specs.
mean, that's not our business at this point anyway. Okay. Okay. Any questions from panel members for the applicant then?
Just one. I think I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. In your letter of July 15th, you note that planning staff requested the driveway be permeable. I'm assuming that is then because to balance off the reduction in the side yard landscaping that you're looking for. Accurate or no?
Correct.
Thank you.
It's accurate.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then let's take it into committee for discussion. And I just want to make a comment on the rear yard setback. I really don't like doing rear yard setbacks allowances that are more than 50%. But in this case, it's for well, not only is it there, but for practical purposes, it's a side yard setback. Visually, it's a side yard setback because of the orientation of the lot. And, right, but still, for a new build, a side yard setback of only 0.5 is still not, I would like to see something more than that, to be fair. So that's my principal concern with this application. My other concern is the lack of landscaping, but planning feels comfortable that they're mitigating that through the permeable pavers. I don't know. Anyway, those are my comments.
And that would have to be a condition for our approval then?
Absolutely. Planning also has a condition of approval, which I think has to do with the heights. But we would extend the condition to be with the permeable pavers, should you choose to go that way. Anyway, does anyone else have any comments or no?
Just a comment about the street. It's clearly in transition. I've been up and down the street on Street View, and it's clearly a street in transition. It's not. This is not by any means a massive home by comparison. There's a lot of, including the direct neighbor, but there's a lot of homes that are quite large on the street.
Yeah, I think what's unique about this is it's one of these corner lots that have been sort of shoehorned, but this isn't the only one. There's a number of them in that neighborhood. And that's what creates the anomalous variances. Anyway. But the last thing you want is someone else to come back here with saying, well, you know, he got a rear yard setback of 0.5, I want the same. And if it's not a corner lot like this, that you shouldn't fly. So that's what we have. Forestry also has a condition of approval, if anyone's...
So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve, as I believe the application meets the 4 tests subject to the planning and forestry conditions.
What about the permeable pavers on the driveway?
You can amend the planning condition to...
Well, they have it referred to on the drawing, on the site plan. Should we refer to that?
So you can include that and the site plan as it relates to the permeable pavers.
Yeah, on the site plan they have the bubbled permeable pavers. So just make reference to the site plan drawing. Would cover it. Thank you.
Sorry, and you mentioned forestry as well? Okay. Is there a seconder? I'm going to declare the motion failed then. Is there an alternate motion?
I just wish I feel like it's a bit of an overbuild. That's what I feel. Not by much. It wouldn't have been much to make me happy. But I do feel like it's a bit of an overbuild. The design is great, it just needs to be scaled down a bit. And I'm certainly not suggesting for a moment that the owner does not have the right to improve his property. He certainly has the right to improve his property. It's an older home, needs to be improved. So, I don't know. I'm going to put forward a motion to refuse based on those reasons.
Okay, do we have a seconder for Ms. Alderson's motion.
Mr. Chair, with some concerns that echo my colleague, I will second that motion.
Okay. All in favor of refusal? Opposed? So the motion to refuse passes 3-2. The application is refused. Yeah, that was one that I would have liked to have sliced and diced, but I don't think we can do that.
It was very close.
Yeah. Okay, item 8 is for Conifer Drive. This is an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling. A previous Committee of Adjustment decision approved variances related to parking space length. There's one variance, which is the front yard setback. And I don't see any conditions of approval being requested. And Giancarlo Tari is the agent?
Chair.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, correct.
And
Thank you, Chair and committee members.
so if we could get a brief overview from you on the application, please.
Yes, absolutely. So we have an existing single-family dwelling on site, what's currently a bungalow, and we had a Committee of Adjustment meeting not too long ago where the garage length for the parking space was decreased. There was a step inside of the garage, took off like 10 inches or so. So that was approved. Unfortunately for this homeowner, a second zoning review was completed after the first, after our application to committee. So this item was missed. So we're back again for this additional item. What it is the existing home footprint is at, is there on site. And I guess the new bylaw indicates a 10.3 meter front yard setback, which would need the whole house to move back 2.55 meters, reducing the rear yard, obviously not going to work. So we're asking that the existing footprint remain, and what we're seeking in this actual build that impacts this front yard setback, we're just adding on to the existing single car garage. So we're not increasing any measurements towards the front property yard at all. We're maintaining what is existing. We're just adding another garage, secondary parking, making a single car into a double. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to find, do you have a site plan that shows your proposal in relation to the two neighboring properties?
We can check on if you have the
Because
current.
I have a
You
survey,
should have.
but that doesn't show.
Yes.
That doesn't show me what you're proposing to add.
There should be an existing survey there we go. In the folder, we had an up-to-date, there you are. Okay, you can see we're the middle property.
Yeah, no, understood. But like, do you have a site plan that will show what your front yard setback is going to be compared to the other two properties?
Okay, well, if we go to the current site plan on file, let me just reference the page. So drawing A1 will show our proposed site plan. And it doesn't reference to the neighboring properties, but it just does show the, you could look at the existing garage, which has the 7.72 meter front yard setback, and our proposed 7.72 front yard setback.
So you're currently, what's your setback currently? 7?
7.72. That's the current front yard setback to the existing
Okay,
single
and
car
you're gonna
garage.
wind up with 7.75. I see.
The
So
exact same.
it's a difference of
Yes, we're
0.03. Okay, got it. Okay.
There is no difference. We're going from 7.72 to 7.72. All we're doing is increasing the width of the existing single car garage into a double.
I
If you
see.
reference to drawing page.
Okay, that's
thank
fine.
you.
I got it now. I got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Right.
Clear as mud now. I'm assuming there's no one here to speak to this item or online.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so if we could take it into committee then.
Sure.
Sure.
With that, I believe this application is very straightforward. I'd like to move a motion for approval as it meets the four tests.
I'm
There are no
happy to
conditions.
support that motion by seconding.
All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed to item number 9, just want to let you know, the agent is on WebEx. There is a gentleman on the list, Emil Pop, who wasn't present during the sound check, but I see that they have since joined, but they're here on 2 different devices, so I need to figure out which one is the correct one.
Okay.
There are also 2 people who are in the council chambers who are not on the list, who are also ready to speak.
Okay. So maybe we'll have the people in the council chamber speak, and then you can try to sort out with the.
Not a problem. So I will sort out with Emil
Emil,
Pop
yeah.
once it's his turn to.
Perfect.
Okay. So in the meantime, I am going to unmute the agent as you introduce
Let me just
the item.
introduce, sorry. So item 9 is 221 Martin Grove Road. This is an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling. There are 8 variances being requested. TRCA has provided advisory comments. Planning is recommending 4 conditions of approval, and Transportation Services is also recommending a condition of approval. And David Wang is the agent, and I believe he's online.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
I am.
Hey, welcome.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is David Wong from David Wong Architect, and I am the agent for Ms. Jianping Amy Feng and her family in relation to the variances being sought at 221 Martin Grove Road. The first variance is in regard to the stable top of bank line, where a minimum 10-meter setback distance from the building is required. As the existing setback is 0, the proposal maintains this dimension. This is due to the existing northeast walls of the house, which are currently located within the setback. The delineation and acceptance of this line was a result of extensive consultation with the TRCA staff, which resulted in agreement in the submitted email dated January 27th, 2022. The TRCA also requested a 6-meter setback from the stable top of bank. These requirements shape the majority of the new construction along the southern edge of the property away from the environmentally sensitive area. As such, the variance is only for the existing northern portion of the house to remain. The majority of the house complies with and exceeds the 6-meter minimum distance setback. The reason we are seeking this variance is because the proposal seeks to reuse some of the existing home's foundation walls for both economic and environmental reasons. The second variance being requested is tied to the first and is in relation to the maximum permitted dwelling length of 17 meters. We are seeking a distance of 28.07. This configuration is also directly related to the irregular site where it narrows in the middle portion, pushing the new area to the southern edge. The reason we are seeking this technical variance is due to the existing conditions as cited by the planning report. The third variance being sought is in relation to the maximum permitted dwelling depth of 19 meters. The altered dwelling will have a depth of 75.87 due to the location of the existing dwelling. The proposed new dwelling essentially follows this existing configuration. The reason we are seeking this technical variance is due to the existing conditions, again, cited by the planning report. The fourth variance being sought is an incremental increase in the maximum permitted flat roof height from 7.2 to 7.41. The reason we are seeking this increase is to allow for the desired floor to ceiling height on the interior, allowance for structure, and most importantly, allowance for low slope roof construction that will allow for proper drainage. The fifth variance being sought is a direct result of the existing site condition where the elevation of the lowest point of vehicle entrance must be higher than the elevation of the center line of the driveway of 138.7. We are proposing an elevation of 138.25. In order to comply, we would have to raise the entire driveway to a height greater than the neighboring properties to the south, thereby altering and negatively affecting the natural overland flow of water drainage. We are seeking a variance to maintain the existing driveway as is. Reworking the driveway and overland drainage for the site was not intended to be and is not included in the scope of work for this project. The sixth variance being sought is permission for 2 platforms at the second story where maximum permitted is 1 on the rear walls. As the existing site configuration has led to a north and south wing, we are planning to have 1 on each wing tied to a larger bedroom of a multi-generational family, which is intended to reside in the dwelling. This allows for private outdoor space, all of which has been designed to allow for privacy and minimize any overlook into adjacent properties. The seventh variance being sought is a relief of the maximum permitted platform area of the second floor of 4 square meters. We have proposed a front platform of 10.13 square meters and 2 rear platforms of 12.99 and 25.85. As per the previous variance, we are requesting permission to provide larger bedrooms with their own private outdoor space, all of which minimize any overlook to the adjacent properties. Lastly, the 8th variance concerns required for parking spaces to be provided with level 2 EV charging. We will provide these for the 2 parking spaces within the garage as required. We'd like to note the city planning staff has been satisfied with this application, have no objection to the variances. We recognize and will comply with the 4 conditions of the approval. Construction to follow the submitted plans in terms of depth and length, EV energized outlets, bird-friendly treatments in all new rear windows, dark sky compliant on all new exterior lighting, and we also recognize the urban forestry requirements. This was confirmed by the staff report dated August 6th, 2024, that was submitted to the committee, and the owner is fine with these conditions. Therefore, in our opinion, the 8 variances before you do not result in any adverse impacts and represent good planning. We believe that these variances are minor. They are desirable for the appropriate development of the land. They maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the official plan, as well as meeting the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to address any of the committee's questions if needed and review any of the submitted supporting material.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Right on time. Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant before we proceed to the deputants?
So just wanted to reconfirm, you're then deleting variance 8 for the electrical connection?
If we impose a condition, it'll get deleted anyway. Okay. Okay, so we have some people in the room that are interested in speaking to this item.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The first person is Michael Anthony Morrow from 223 Martin Grove.
Can we get, oh, thanks. Sorry, couldn't see you behind the pole.
Does that work? Mike Morrow, 223 Martin Grove. I'm really here for information only. I have no opposition to the construction. I'm the direct neighbor to this property, and I assume that you'll follow all guidelines once it goes through building department. I guess the only outside concern not related to is the infrastructure, as has been brought up through the course of today. The impact of additional space means additional services.
For sure.
And respectfully, it has nothing to do with the neighbor, more for the city, just a consideration on your parts.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for being here. There was someone else in the room as well?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Stephen Leslie Combs from 217 Martin Grove.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I live at 217 Martin Grove Road, 2 doors down from the proposed application. I don't, like Mr. Morrow, I don't have any objections to it, as a matter of fact, but what I do have is want to know what's happening with the infrastructure there. I have had numerous sewer blockages in this place, and there's an obvious problem with the sewer that will be connected to this, or is connected to this house, And in light of the application, which seems to have a lot more bathrooms, presumably, and bedrooms, what's happening with the infrastructure? The other thing I would say in relation to the infrastructure, this is on a big bend in Martin Grove Road, single lane each way, with a 40-kilometer-an-hour speed limit, but that is ignored. There's vehicles roaring up and down that street all the time, and this driveway empties out right in the middle of that bend. But sounds like there's been some transportation services requests, which I'm unaware of. But if you could tell me what they are, I'd like to hear them.
Yeah, they have a condition of approval, actually. It's also on the bend of the river. It's really quite...
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what makes me concerned about the setback.
Yeah.
As a person who walks through that park, which is on the other side of the creek, Mike's house is on a real big bend there, and there has been some erosion.
Okay, I'll pull up the transportation in the meantime, but we'll get the...
Okay, thank you.
Speakers first, okay. Is there anyone else, or?
In the chambers, no, Mr.
No.
Chairman, but then there's the situation with Emil Pop, who I didn't have a chance to sound check. I see that Emil is actually on 2 separate devices, which could be a problem, so I'm going to try to unmute the first one.
Okay.
And Emil, one of your devices is unmuted. I don't know which one. Can you please try and speak?
Hello, it's Emil Pop, 11 Appleby Court.
Okay, we can hear him, Mr. Chairman, so he can proceed.
Okay, welcome, Emil. Can you?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like the previous speakers, really no objections. I was more curious of the architectural drawings, which would be nice if you guys could put them in the letter that you send us. I mean, I got the topographic map, but I couldn't visualize what's happening, and I came on board just more curious to see if it is monster, how monster it is, and
Yeah.
things like that. Now I see it has a swimming pool in the back and everything else. So really no objections. I think it's enough.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome to the new technology age. They used to send the drawings out, but now you got to look at it online. So
yes, thank you very much.
They are available there, but you have to log in to have a look at it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I just pulled up the transportation report, and to be honest, the only thing they're looking for is that electric vehicle charging outlet is included in the garage. So they're not actually addressing the driveway. But I'll bring back, if we can bring back the applicant, maybe you can touch base. I don't think there's really much to rebut, but if you want to make a few comments, please do.
Well, to address the first concern, the EV charging, which has been identified as level 2, we will provide that for the 2 parking spaces within the garage. As far as the other concerns that people in council have actually advised on, in terms of servicing, obviously that will be addressed during the building permit process, and will fulfill the requirements as required by the city at that point in time.
So are you deleting variance number 8?
Sorry, David?
I'm not deleting it. We will abide it by providing the 2 EV charging within the garage.
Okay, but if you're going to provide them, then you don't need that variance, is I think what Secretary Treasurer's...
No, we will provide them. I mean, that's...
So are you deleting that
the way the
variance?
world is going. If I can, sure.
We'll take that deletion.
To satisfy the transportation request.
Yeah, it's kind of a triple request because planning's also requesting it. So let's reduce your application to 7 variances. Then is that?
That is more than acceptable.
Perfect. Okay. And the sewer concerns, we can't deal with that, but if you guys want to contact the city, please do. Try. Yeah. Okay.
I can state, I mean, obviously, the owner, as part of the longstanding, well-established neighborhood, right, with mature
Yeah,
houses
no, understood,
and
understood.
and
Okay.
residents.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think we're good. We're going to take it into committee. If there's no other questions, let's do some discussion, and if someone's ready for a motion. No?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank the applicants and the individuals that spoke on this matter on the basis of the deletion of minor variance request number 8 and including which I guess deals with the condition of urban forestry and planning. I believe those are all the conditions. I move to approve.
Well, transportation, you don't need it because you've deleted.
Because deleted.
I'll second that.
However you want to do that. Okay, seconded by Mr. Dalton. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you.
Sorry, did that include ravine condition number 1? Planning, forestry, and ravine?
Planning, forestry, and transportation, which may or may not already be addressed.
Oh, I had ravine condition number 1.
Oh, I didn't see that. Urban forestry number 2.
So, okay, so ravine and forestry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, right, they're requesting 1. Okay, missed that. So it's forestry 1 and 2 essentially then. Okay. All right, lots of conditions, but they're all, some are redundant, and we have unanimous approval. Okay. Okay, number 10, 137 Rosemount Avenue. This is an application to construct a new 2-story detached garage with a garden suite. There are 7 variances being requested, 1 of which has been revised. Planning has conditions of approval. Metrolinx has advisory comments, and there is a support letter or support form letter with 7 signatures.
Mr. Chairman, so Marco Vieira, the agent, is online and sound checked. We also have an additional person in the council chambers who has identified that they want to speak to the item.
Okay, that's fine. We'll have Marco go first. Mr. Vieira?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the
morning.
committee. My name is Marco Vieira. I am the agent for this application. I'm at 257 Dunraven Drive. The application before you is to construct a new garage by keeping a small portion of the existing 1-story garage to the east limit of our property line, and then having a new 2nd-story suite built over it. The intent and purpose of the application is to build this garage and garden suite while pulling it away from the existing east and south property lines where possible. We have a total of 7 variances, which we feel that are minor. Variance number 1 is for an additional 9.1 square meters. That portion is attributed to maintaining a 1-story portion along the eastern limit, which will allow us to access the 2nd floor. We feel that that isn't negatively impacting the massing, as the majority of the proposal pulls away from the property lines. Variance number 2 is tied to an existing side yard setback on that eastern limit. It's a very small portion. The rear lot line is irregular. The pinch point, it's at 0.9, and then it extends to over 2 feet as it carries across to the southern limit of the property. Variance number 3 is a side yard setback variance of 1.5, where the minimum is 1.83. Now, the existing garage that is there is at 0.3 meters from the property line. So in developing this design, we decided to remove the southern footprint portion of that garage so that our proposal can be pulled away from the property line and towards our current lot to minimize the impact and
adverse impacts to the adjacent neighbors. Number 4 is tied to building height of 6.35. That just allows us to have a flat roof design with proper slope in which we are directing water flow away from the eastern limit. It's a numerical variance. The distance and location of the proposed garden suite is quite far away from the eastern property line and from the main portion of the dwelling. So we feel that that variance is minimal. The one-story portion is closest to the property line, but the second story has been pulled away from the property line to minimize the impact in terms of massing and also the scale of the garden suite. Variance number 5 and 6 has to do with the angular plane, and that too is tied to the fact that we've decided to keep a small portion of a one-story to allow access to the second floor, but maintain the second story portion of the garden suite further away from the property line to minimize the impact to the adjacent neighbors. Variance number 7 is the variance that we've modified through the discussions with planning. We were originally asking for 39.24% in terms of soft landscaping. In our discussions with planning, we increased that to 43.17%, which we feel is very close to in keeping with the bylaw. And in further discussions with planning, we decided to suggest that the proposed driveway would be built of a permeable surface so that it can allow for a higher amount of water infiltration into our current lot and minimize overflow or water being discharged to the street, and also gives us a lot more absorption within our proposed lot, our proposed development. There are mature hedges along the northern portion of the lot. We feel that the setback of the garden suite, the distance away from the existing dwellings, makes this an attractive proposal that minimizes the impact to adjacent neighbors. Surrounding backyards do have some large mature trees, which are all being maintained, and that will allow for screening of the proposal.
Okay, Mr. Vier, I'm going to ask you to wrap up, please.
Certainly. So just in summary, just like to say that we feel that this proposal it is minor. We feel that it does meet the 4 tests, and we ask the committee to approve this application. And also the neighbors have been consulted with. There's some support letters.
Okay, thank you.
Also the neighbor. Sorry.
Thank you, Marco. Do we have someone in the chambers?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Alan Clemens at 7 Joseph Street.
Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. And I'm going to read in the interest of brevity and to get all our points across. So my name is Alan Clemens. I live at 7 Joseph Street in Weston, York. Our west side property line is shared with the rear property line of 137 Rosemount. We have a number of objections to the variances the applicant has requested. Firstly, it is important to us that the Adjustment Committee understand that we are significantly impacted by the subject proposal because the chosen site for the new garden suite is in such close proximity to our shared property line. I guess I'll just mention about the support letters because that came up a few times there from the previous speaker. Those support letters are from people that are removed from the property. We have not shown our support, and we are directly connected to the property. The proposal does not take into consideration our continued enjoyment of our property. Also, before getting into the specifics regarding variances, it must be noted that the purpose of the application is stated as to construct a new 2-story detached garage with a garden suite. The applicant has stated the proposal is a new build, not in addition to an existing structure. This is supported by Toronto Building in their revised zoning notice dated August 7. Specifically addressing the variances, variance number 1 regarding ancillary building area coverage, the applicant has requested to build beyond the bylaw allowable of 60 meters squared. We object to the variance because the excess coverage is the starting point for why the proposed garden suite will impact us so greatly. Increased coverage or size brings with it greater issues such as increased overlook, privacy issues, venting and stormwater management, et cetera, et cetera. Also, by extension, lot coverage in excess of the bylaw ties into revised setbacks, leading to the other rear property variance request and others. Variance number 2, regarding the rear yard setback, and this is really our most important point. The minimum bylaw required for rear yard setback is 1.5 meters. The variance requested here is not a minor variance, it is a major variance to only 0.09 meters or 3.5 inches. While this is a quantifiable distance, it essentially means that the new garden suite will be on our property line for all intents and purposes. This will create a very imposing presence beside our property where a patio and garden currently sits. Most concerning to us is the decrease in privacy we will experience by placing a garden suite so close to our property. Other concerns are increased pollution from the proposed garage, increased noise issues, and decreased light to our property and into the home via windows. Regarding privacy, we have noted that the applicant's design has fitted larger windows facing our property versus smaller windows facing his property, putting in question the overall orientation of the plan. Mike DeOliveira, zoning examiner with Toronto Building, addressed required setbacks in his revised zoning notice dated August 7. He states, note the existing garage has more than 50% of the walls being removed, so the proposal has been reviewed as a new garden suite. All required setbacks and separations will apply. The zoning examiner's notice, which we appreciate, refers to the applicant's claim on the site plan to him that the existing garage will remain. Therefore, accordingly, a variance of that 0.09 is required. This is refuted by the zoning manager's review. The existing garage will not remain. It will be substantially removed because more than 50% of its walls are being taken out, as Mike DeOliveira points out. We don't, we don't want the 0.09. It's just going to create too much impact on our property. We would look for a setback there on the rear property of at least 1.5 meters. Further review of the proposed site plan, including a garden suite and backyard features, shows that the 1.5 meter rear setback could be accommodated, we feel, without undue hardship. We also have objection to the variance number 5. The proposed garden suite will penetrate the angular plane. I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit because that angular plane is going to cut out, more light, and it's because of the mass of the property, it's going to have more negative effect on us. Lastly, regarding variance number 7, and I will wrap up here, the issue of soft landscaping. Given the city's stormwater management issues and the location of the proposed garden suite close to the property line, we object to any concession to the bylaw requiring 50% of the rear yard maintained as soft landscaping.
Okay,
It's a huge
wrap up, please.
Okay, it's a huge issue for the city, and we certainly don't want to incur water in our basement, as many of our friends and neighbors have. So we appreciate the input of Michael Mizzi. He did speak to the developer, and he pointed out that issue, soft landscaping, and also that in the larger context, he was concerned at community planning that it didn't really fit.
Okay, we're going to get some
neighborhood.
questions into you as well, so you can still you can still get your points across, but I'm going to ask you to stop now.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll help you out with that last point. The applicant has revised the variance for soft landscaping. Are you still dissatisfied with the revision?
Yeah, we just feel that based on the problem of stormwater runoff, and it's been a huge challenge for the city, and the city does still have deficiency that they are working on. Anything short of 50% could lead to negative runoff.
Because they're not
into a
they're not
property.
much short of 50%. They're at 43 and change, right?
Oh, okay.
Plus the driveway is going permeable pavers.
Yeah. So, it's a question of what do we support? Well, we think that the bylaw is there for a purpose, and it's a real issue that's costing people
Okay.
a lot of
Okay,
money.
we get it. We get it.
Okay.
Okay. With regards to the side yard setback, I understand your concerns around that. I mean, essentially, this is again sort of an unusual situation. It's not a typical situation. You've got a garage there now, which is already, 0.9 or whatever the current situation is. If you had a house there instead of that garage, and you had, typically you're going to have 0.6 or more side yard setback, you'd be in the typical situation.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for, essentially.
Yeah, the existing garage is a one-story garage.
Yeah.
And essentially, it could be 50, 60, 70 years old. It is sort of typical wood construction. It's a silent being. And what's been good for us over the years is it's actually created a separation, a buffer from that property.
For sure.
And the garden suite is a totally different animal.
Absolutely.
Which will bring all of the noise and
No,
activity that a lived-in
we get
property
it. Okay.
gives.
Okay. Good enough. Any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question, actually. So that looks like a two-car garage I'm looking at from the aerial view. Looks like there's pavement that's maybe broken up in front of it. Do you park on there? Like how is that being utilized?
This is the owner's.
Oh, I'm talking about your two-car garage.
Oh, no, we don't have a garage. That garage is the existing garage on the on the neighbor's property.
Okay.
So that's the
It's
neighbor's.
the applicant's garage. Okay,
Yeah, it's the neighbor's stone driveway.
I get it.
And that's the way it's been since we've been living there for 20 years.
It's a nice buffer for you. Yes.
Yeah, it's a nice buffer. It needs development because we have lived with, sort of an unsightly. If you look at the picture, it seems to be a business operated out of there. So we have lived with that for.
So you'd like
years.
it developed. You'd like it developed.
Well, we're open to development, but something appropriate to our property and the larger neighborhood.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I'm going to ask the applicant to come back. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
There's no one else, I'm assuming?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Marco, can you come back for a rebuttal, please?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to clarify in terms of the zoning. The zoning review was completed on the basis that it's new because more than 50% of the existing garage is being altered. So because we don't comply with the minimum 50% of the footprint being maintained, it is seen to be defined as new. The intention is to keep the wall along the east side for a portion of it, just to minimize having to encroach or perform additional work on that side. We can work with the neighbor to minimize accessibility to their lot, damage to the property. My client has been a resident there for many, many years. This isn't a developer that's looking to come in, develop, and move out. It is in his interest to better create still a separation between the adjacent neighbor. That is why we've refrained that portion of the garage to remain at one story and pulled back the second story away from the property line. That second story will be over 8 meters away from the adjacent building facade. Current house at from the opposition on the east side does have large windows facing ours, but we feel that we've got a considerable distance to mitigate privacy. The two windows we are proposing, one of which is 5 feet, 1.5 meters above the second floor. So it's to bring in natural light, but not to
sort of add an overlook. Major windows, bigger one is in the front of the dwelling. We were being sensitive to having them higher from the second floor. I believe that the intent in our design is to enhance what is currently there. In terms of drainage, water infiltration, I believe we've done a great job to minimize the water runoff. We do have an in-ground pool, which will take in a lot of the excess water as well. And we feel that maintaining a very small portion to allow, a green roof allows us to landscape that buffer along the south side is doing its best to mitigate the impact to the adjacent neighbor. And we feel that this is minor and that it's appropriate for the area.
Okay, thank you. Are you wrapped up now, Marco?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant from panel members? Okay. It begs the question, again, from what similar to an application we had earlier today, that existing garage, you're saying you're not going to take it down then? Or you're going to take down just a portion of it? Because again, if you don't have the proper footings, you're probably looking at taking down the whole thing, right?
Well, yeah, we don't know exactly what the condition of it. We're looking at maintaining that frame wall so that we are not having to do any additional restructuring of it. It does look like it's in good condition in terms of the exterior. We will have to see what condition it is on the interior, and that is why the new construction focuses away from it so that we would be minimizing any excavation along that side.
This site essentially has two driveways right now, and you're maintaining the other driveway, the one not related to the garden suite, in its current state as a paved driveway, correct?
Well, a portion of it in the back portion of the lot, we've reduced, also introduced it into paving as well, so that
No, but you have another driveway that's part of that leads to the attached garage.
Looks like it's not paved. It's
no.
It's
yeah. There's
interlocking, maybe interlocking brick.
Yeah, if you're referring to the one on the southwest side, there's an existing interlocking, but then it's got a wall about 3/4 way into the property, and then it's got the existing patio and pool area, so you cannot get into the garage at all.
Oh, so
it's currently the drive is on the side. The only garage area that you'll be able to access is from the proposed permeable pavers that we are proposing as part of our proposal, and it's as part of the image that we provided for the presentation, where you'll see.
Okay, so Marco, hold on. So what you're saying is that the attached garage is not usable as as a garage.
An attached garage.
Right here. Yes, it is.
On the existing proposal, you mean?
It's on Joseph Street. The garage is on Joseph Street.
It's on Joseph Street. Yes.
And it's attached to the
that's
house.
Part of the. Yeah, that's an old existing one-car garage that is not being used to house the car inside. It's just an existing condition of the driveway facing Joseph Street, original to the part of the house.
There's still a curb cut there, right?
There is existing, yes.
Yeah, so you have two curb cuts. You essentially have two driveways. How you're using them is not the question. But it's what you have, right?
Well, it is there, yes. It's been as part of the property. It's original to the property.
Okay.
Technically, there's 3 curb cuts.
All right. So I'm just trying to, my only concern with this application is the lack of side yard setback. And I'm just trying to understand, the only rationale is you're trying to preserve potentially, maybe, the foundations of the garage. If you weren't, would you be willing to do a lesser setback there?
I mean, we could explore that. I mean, we could try to square that corner of the garage along the property line to possibly increase
that setback. I just don't know what the condition of that existing
Okay.
wall is. We can provide, 0.3 meter setback maybe there, but the intent was to minimize work around that eastern limit of the property line. And it is our understanding that that existing garage has a proper foundation in it. So we don't anticipate having to dig or do anything to that garage in order to maintain the structure.
I see. Okay, understood. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, so thank you. We're going to take it into committee then.
One more.
One more question, go ahead.
Has the Heritage Conservation District weighed in on this design at all?
Through Mr. Chair, no, the property is not under heritage. I know that the area is being reviewed to include or add some potential properties. We did discuss that with planning in our discussions to encourage us to use sympathetic materials, but it is not under heritage.
Because it's quite a radical departure from your residence in terms of design. That's all I'm commenting on, that's all. Not that I don't like it, I'm just saying it's a radical departure.
It's going to look like its own standalone structure, essentially.
Correct.
Okay, so we have, let's see if I got the right. Okay, sorry, so let's just take it. Is there any other discussion? So this is revised. The landscaping variance has been revised to, I think, 43%.
Yeah, 43.17.
Okay.
So if there is no further discussion, I'd like to move a motion for approval, as I believe the application meets the 4 tests, subject to the planning conditions.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Dalton. Is there a seconder? It's a familiar pattern. Okay, we have a seconder, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so the motion carries. Application is approved. I wasn't sure, so. I'm gonna join again. I'm gonna vote against. I have an issue with the side yard setback.
Doesn't the motion fail?
No, the motion passes. It's 3-2.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see Sophia's name.
Yeah, I was the first one. I'll be joining.
Yep. Yep. So sorry, Bill and.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to mention something for item number 14 before you introduce it. There was a request, from what I understand, the neighbor at 40 Willingdon Boulevard is actually requesting a deferral.
Yes, we're aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're aware of that. And I'll address that issue when we get to that item. So that was item 10, 11 has been deferred, 12 has been deferred, 13's been deferred, so we are now on to item 14. There was a deferral request from the neighbor. However, I believe the neighbor was very articulate in presenting their case, and we have that information, so we'll discuss that, but that's my opinion on that right now. So number 14 is 38 Willingdon Boulevard. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. The existing detached garage in the rear yard will be demolished. First one that's going to be demolished. There are 6 variances being requested. Planning is suggesting a condition should we approve, and forestry is requesting 2 conditions should we approve. There is a letter of objection from number 40. There's also a request for deferral from number 40. I think we're going, are they also listed as speakers? Just trying to, yes, okay. So I'll just briefly address the deferral request from number 40 first. And
Okay, so I will unmute Adam Mabley.
Sure.
From 40 Wellington Boulevard.
Okay. I guess we're into the afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So we were aware of your deferral request, but as I mentioned earlier, I believe you were very articulate in expressing your concerns, and you're in a position to move forward, so I don't see the point of deferring this item. If you want to comment on that, please do.
The purpose was for the deferral request was just to compile more information and kind of gain a better comparison. Some information has come to me as of last night about a previous application on the street that was denied by the committee, and also was denied by the OMB.
Okay.
And it's a very similar application. So that's not something I was able to include in the submission, but I'm able to speak about briefly today.
That's fine.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that, then are you okay for us to proceed today?
I am, yes.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll come back to the applicant then.
Yes, so the applicant is Franco Romano, and I am unmuting him right now.
Thank you. Mr. Romano, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, members of the panel, staff, and residents. My name is Franco Romano, Action Planning Consultants, 321 Lakeshore.
Okay, I think we're going to need a full presentation given the contestants from the neighboring property.
Absolutely, and thanks, staff, for bringing up my presentation slides there. Slide number 1 shows that the subject site's in the upper middle, and we'll see neighboring properties, principally two stories. There are 3-story dwellings, some that are fully presented towards the street, and others that have dormers in the roof along the sides. And there's new construction as well as older construction, both in terms of 2 stories and 3 stories. The proposal is for a 3-story dwelling, and the 3rd story is built within the roof line. And as staff has recommended a condition of approval to be substantially in accordance with the front elevation, that would continue that 2-story presence along the street line. And I'll show you some other images in my presentation if we can go back to that. Slide number 2, we'll see that the north side yard setback is currently existing. The proposal is new construction, but we're trying to minimize the amount of excavation and disturbance along that north side. And that is to be continued not only for the existing wall, but for the proposed dwelling itself. You'll see on this image, this is a site plan that's based on the survey, and might have to go to it later, but the pattern of development in this neighborhood and on this street is that buildings are quite tight to one side of the lot line and a little wider on the other side. Sometimes that width on the other side is just a side yard setback. Other times it's for a tight driveway to the back. So the proposal currently continues that pattern, which is the existing pattern. And we'll see that the bulk of the building is 17 meters, and then there is a small bump out in the back, which has about 2.8 meter side yard setbacks. South side yard setback is compliant at 1.2 meters. This is a lot that is smaller than the base zoning bylaw. The base zoning bylaw requires a lot frontage of 13.5 meters, and that's where the 1.2 meters kicks in. But the property itself is 9.14 meters. On a 9-meter wide lot, the side yard setback requirement under the bylaw is 0.9 meters, and the proposal has 1.2 on one side and 0.42 on the other side, the 0.42 being the only variance. that existing garage in the backyard is being removed. If we took the existing building and the existing garage, it's well over 40%. The proposed lot coverage is at 33.9%. On the next slide, we'll see that, well, actually staying on that slide there, we'll see that neighboring properties are built fairly closely in terms of the same building length, if not a little longer on one side. Recent activity, in discussions with planning staff had even more committee of adjustment approvals, but I've just included those that are on Willington and just fairly short distance around. Quite common to have variances in excess of the 150 plus 25% or in excess of 0.5. We go to the next slide, slide 4. This shows in part the pattern. So we'll see number 40 Willington from right to left, 38 Willington and 36 Willington. Height on one side, a little wider on the other side. The green broken line shows the as of right with the 1.2 meter side yard setbacks, which is a little inconsistent with the existing pattern, but I'm showing the 1.2 meters. And we'll see the 2-story presence. It is a sloped roof, and the sloped roof is moved away from the property lines, but for 2 dormers on the sides. And what we'll also see in this instance is the overall building height is bylaw compliant or smaller than bylaw compliant. The wall heights are lower than the wall heights permitted by the zoning bylaw, and they're very close to the existing wall heights. So the one eaves projection we'll see on the right-hand side on this elevation, it's the north side, that's basically an existing condition. It's very close to the existing condition. So the in terms of floor space index, we'll see, as I mentioned before on the previous slide, and in terms of this building footprint and building envelopes, very much matches what is permitted. And the 3rd floor triggers that part of that variance. Slides 5 and 6 show the side elevations. So towards the north, see there's no windows. And on the right-hand side of that slide 5, we'll see that little bump out. And then if we go to slide number 7, you'll see the roof in its slope condition. So happy to accept and support the planning staff recommendation, the urban forestry recommendation, and to submit that the variances are minor in nature. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We forgot to run the time clock.
We did. It resets to 5 when it gets to 0.
Sorry, I didn't notice. Okay.
No problem.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I didn't notice that. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I just have one question. It pertains to the north setback. Is the rationale that you want to maintain an existing wall to prevent having to dig there, or is it your assertion that that's the predominant pattern and that's the reason you want that variance?
It's both, and the pattern is consistent with the fact that the lot frontages are undersized. So thank you, staff. They've kind of read my mind here. The survey shows where it says in dark, I guess in bold, there is the PIN number. That's the subject property. 38 Wellington.
No, that's fair. The reason I ask that is because we've had a couple of items already where people are claiming that, well, we're trying to keep a foundation wall, and that's why we're asking for this variance. In this case, since you're continuing that wall into the rear, that argument I think was not as convincing in my mind, because you're still going to have to face that same distance further back. So if your argument is...
Absolutely have to face it on the back, yeah. But it is the pattern, and the survey shows...
Okay, so that brings a bit of a different light in my view, because if the argument was, just for construction purposes, I wasn't going to buy that one, sorry. Anyway, does anyone have any other questions?
I understand that. If you can scroll down a little bit on the survey, you'll even see number 42 in that north lot line for number 42, the other way. Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
You'll see that is even a tight one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, we're going to ask the neighbor to make their presentation.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I am unmuting Adam Mabley right now.
Thank you.
All
Well,
right,
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Adam Mabley, and my family and I live at 40 Willingdon, which is located directly north of the applicant's property. I am presenting on behalf of my wife and I. We object to this request for variances. We would like to make the committee aware of one of the most recent pieces of activity on this block of Willingdon regarding a request for variances that was denied by a previous committee and the Ontario Municipal Board. In a similar application almost directly across the street, an applicant requested variances to construct a dwelling with a gross floor area of 296.68 square meters and a height of 9.5 meters. Their request for approval of the variances was denied and was subsequently appealed to the Ontario Municipal Board. In their January 2014 dismissal of the appeal and denial of the variances, the Ontario Municipal Board decision noted that the GFA variance requested failed to meet the test of the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The OMB decision also noted that the height of the proposed house at 39 Willingdon did not reinforce or respect the neighborhood character. The applicant at 39 Willingdon also included a rear balcony. The OMB decision found that the proposed rear balcony would not be desirable, as the presence of a balcony would disturb the pattern of development in the rear yards. At 38 Willingdon, the current applicant is requesting a greater gross floor area of 305.19 square meters and a similar height of 9.21 meters. We feel that the previous OMB decision confirms and substantiates many of our objections with the requested variances related to 38 Willingdon. The result of the OMB's decision was to preserve the character of the neighborhood, and the resulting construction at 39 Willingdon was eventually done in a manner consistent with the existing home. We disagree with the City of Toronto planning staff recommendation that this proposal fits with the scale of the neighborhood. The applicant's submission includes comparisons with 40-foot and greater lot frontages. Only 9 of 22 comparators provided in the submission have 30-foot lots. We feel that this is an important distinction worth consideration. The lack of consistency in the comparators provided also makes fair comparison difficult and complicated. The impact of the degree of scale proposed will be felt more intensely on a 30-foot lot than on 40-foot or more frontages. We question whether a variance of 56% above the bylaw should be considered minor, or whether it will conform with the character of the neighborhood. We also believe that the proposed scale of this house will represent a new precedent in size and crowding in the community of Kingsway homes with 30-foot frontages. The proposal as submitted will also negatively impact our enjoyment of our side and backyards. The other requested variance that has been proposed in the application will result in a north wall with a greater height, length, and reduced setback. The north wall of this newly proposed dwelling will impose and tower over our side and backyards, constraining the space. Lastly, it is important to be aware that the approval of these variances will result in the removal of a mature red oak tree that straddles the boundaries of 38 and 40 Willingdon. This tree has significant value to us, and we object to its removal. The tree provides cooling of our house in the summer months, reducing the need for air conditioning, and provides shade for our backyard. The shade provided by the tree has a direct environmental and financial benefit by reducing the need for air conditioning. In addition, the tree also forms a significant part of the neighborhood canopy. The natural beauty of this tree is a constant source of enjoyment and heritage. The foliage of the tree also reduces noise, including traffic noise from nearby Royal York. Replacement of this tree will not provide equivalent and tangible immediate benefits. We thank the committee for taking the time to consider our objections to the proposed project and hope you find merit in our view that this project is excessive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just hold on. If there's any, are there any questions from panel members? No? Okay. So the example that you gave, number 39, what was do you recall what the frontage was on that one?
It's 30 feet.
30 feet. Same as, okay, thank you.
Same as 38.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The house is boarded up. Do you know if the inside has been gutted already, like in anticipation of demolition?
It is not.
But it has been boarded up.
As far as I'm aware, it's been boarded up, but I am not aware of any demolition of
any gutting of the interior. Okay, thank you.
No.
Okay, assuming there are no other speakers for this item, I'd like to call on Mr. Romano for a rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Mabey, for your comments and for discussing the application with my client on a few occasions. If we can go to the site plan, or even the arborist report, the last page on the arborist report, that tree as thick as a tree protection plan. You'll see that there is a city tree and a number of trees in the backyard, all being protected, and that one tree to be removed is unfortunately within the permitted building envelope, or being affected by the permitted building envelope. I think the 17 meters that I had shown on my site plan is the black outline of the dwelling that's being proposed here. So that's 17 meters, and this tree here is a little more difficult to see, but yes, perfect. Thank you, your cursor circling where the tree is located. So that tree is not within the side yard setback, but it is close enough that the 17-meter building would result in the removal of that tree. And urban forestry accepts and agrees, and the urban forestry conditions of approval are acceptable. 39 Wellington ultimately did receive approval for 0.58, which is very close. The one that got refused had a 37% lot coverage. I don't even know what the number was, but it's a much larger GFA, and it had a number of other variances associated with it. So it's an apples to oranges comparison to the subject site. Also, staff didn't like number 39. They do like number 38, and I think number 38 is sympathetic to the surrounding character in the neighborhood. The height, the wall that were raised by Mr. Madeley are all permitted by the zoning bylaw. If we go to the next page, yeah, that's terrific. So they are all permitted by the zoning bylaw, and they are permitted even where the existing 0.4 meters is shown, particularly if one were to be doing an addition to that as a multiplex. So a multiplex would be able to build upon that existing side yard setback and go up to taller than what is being proposed. So there are no wall windows on that side, on the north side. And if we go back to the site plan, we'll see that in terms of building length, the dwellings that are beside the subject site currently are longer and taller in places where the subject site has no building whatsoever. So that is a condition that currently exists and does not generate unacceptable adverse impact. The proposal is in keeping with not only the existing but the planned context. And in terms of FSI or GFA, I think it's referred to in this instance, it is something that planning staff have agreed is more than acceptable for the subject site. And this is just a sampling that I had produced just to be transparent in terms of what is being shown. I would submit that the variances are minor in nature and they are sympathetic and do not create an unacceptable adverse impact. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. Just a couple of questions. I just want to clarify your statements with regard to number 39. What was the proposed lot coverage on that?
37%. And it
37.
actually got approved. Yeah, that was the one that was refused, and then the one that got approved had a lot coverage of 35%. So it's a bigger building, and then there were also height variances.
Okay. And my other question is just with regards to the side yard setback. Would there be any compromise in the design, or if there be an issue if the new portion were a little more generous with regard to the side yard setback, like say 0.6 or, you know, something to mitigate the addition? Or would that be a compromise of the design?
It would compromise the design. There's a staircase. There's a common staircase that's that's central to the building that would have to be well, if the staircase has to come in from the side lot line, then it would not allow access to the basement, first or second floor. So I think it would compromise the design.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from panel members? No? Last chance, any questions for the other deputant? No? Okay. Let's take it into committee then. Anyone want to kick off some discussion? Or? Nope. Okay, if you're ready for a motion.
Yes, I would like to move a motion for approval. I believe the application meets the 4 tests, subject to the forestry and planning conditions.
Okay, Mr. Dalton has put a motion. Is there a seconder?
I will. I'm with you this time.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so it's a 4-1 approval.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, those are with conditions?
Yes. Planning and forestry. Okay, sorry. So just trying to get some notes down. Sorry. So last item for this morning, which is now into the afternoon. Item 15, 160 Humbervale Boulevard. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 6 variances being requested, and there are numerous conditions being requested. Planning has 2 conditions of approval. Forestry has conditions 2 and 3. Ravine and Natural Forestry has condition 1, and TRCA has advisory comments. There are also objections from number 182, 164, and 168, and support from number 161. And
so, Mr. Chairman, with regards to the speakers list, Shivani Ruparel is present on WebEx. I did not have a chance to sound check them, but we can do that when it's their turn. Heather Ramsey is not on the call.
Okay. In the meantime, welcome, Mr. Engelman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair,
Good
committee
afternoon.
members, staff. David Eagleman, Associate Design Plan Services, Inc., 900 The East Mall, Suite 300. And
we'd like a full presentation, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you, Mr. Chair, I did provide a detailed justification letter, which I would hope the committee has had a chance to read. But I'll note that We have worked quite extensively, even prior to submitting this committee application with the TRCA on this proposal. We initially were trying to propose an addition that would extend the existing envelope, but would maintain more of the existing envelope than what is currently proposed today. And specifically, we were proposing more additions at the rear of the dwelling, and on top of the existing one-story addition at the rear. But through our discussions with the TRCA, that wasn't feasible. And so we had to revise the proposal in order to satisfy them. And as per their report issued for this application, they are satisfied with the proposal. We've consulted with planning staff as well, and they have no concerns or objections subject to their conditions, which we are agreeable to. And we are also agreeable to the conditions from both forestry and RNFP. So in regards to the GFA or FSI, because the property is regulated by the TRCA, a large portion of the lot is not included in the FSI calculation and is not included as part of the lot area. So if you included the entire lot itself, the FSI would be 0.45 times the lot area, or 118 square meters plus 33% of the lot area. So from a GFA perspective, this dwelling is very much in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. The proposed ceiling heights are 8 feet 3 inches and 8 feet for the first and second floors respectively. And the FSI will be in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, as I mentioned. In regards to the front yard setback, again, this is really a result of the natural constraints on the property and the fact that it is regulated by the TRCA. We, as I mentioned at the outset of my presentation, we actually pushed the dwelling forward in an attempt to, or push the additions forward in an attempt to satisfy the TRCA. And even despite the proposed reduced front yard setback, the dwelling is still generally in line with both immediately adjacent dwellings and other dwellings on HUMBERVALE Boulevard. And then in regards to variance 3, the setback to the stable top of the slope, that is an existing condition. The existing house is already past actually the stable top of slope, and that variance is really entirely related to the TRCA, and they are okay with that existing setback, which we are maintaining. The proposed building length, it's a 54 centimeter increase. It's very minor, and again, we did have to extend the building envelope more than we initially intended to in order to satisfy the TRCA. In regards to the stairs width, that's a 62 centimeter variance. It's a very minor increase to the width of the stairs. And in regards to the driveway width is just to match the width of the garage itself. And Transportation Services has expressed no concerns or objections with that. And we are also compliant with all front yard landscaping and soft landscaping requirements. So based on the provided justification, it is my professional opinion that this proposal meets the 4 tests set out under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act and represents good planning. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. I have one question, just sort of to clarify some confusion in my mind. There was a previous decision dated from 2002. In that decision, you were approved for 2 meters from the top of bank. Was that ever acted on? Like, was it constructed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe that was constructed, and I believe that is the 1-story addition that currently exists at the rear of the dwelling. However, I think where the discrepancy comes from between the variance we're seeking now for 0 meters and that variance from over 20 years ago, I think that was under the former Etobicoke zoning code, and there may have been a different way they've calculated the stable top of slope and the distance to it. The TRCA has also changed their policies since then, so I don't think it's a direct apples to apples comparison between the variance we're seeking today and that variance from quite a while ago.
Well, I'm just trying to understand how you wound up at 0. when you were only approved for 2?
And through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have a definitive answer, but I do think it's a result of the way they calculated it then and the way it's calculated now.
In terms of what is defined as top of bank?
Correct. It could have been, I think the top of bank could have been the physical top of bank back then, whereas...
Or it could have moved.
Or it could have moved. That's a fair point. But nowadays, the dimension is measured from not an actual top of bank. It's from the stable top of bank, which is an engineering line that doesn't actually exist.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Bill, I think you had a similar question. Does that cover it? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we have other speakers. So if we can go to...
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Shivani
Ruparel, can you speak up, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Great. My name is Shivani. Thank you. My name is Shivani Ruparel, and I'm from 168 Humbervale Boulevard. I have more questions than I do stated objections. I appreciate the effort that's being made to create a bigger home for a growing family. This same homeowner actually objected to many similar concerns for a house 3 doors down just last month. So I'm surprised to see that we're dealing with similar issues here. The stable top of slope is a big question in my mind. As I stated in my letter, it took me about 5 years to build my home due to COVID and other issues. And there was a lot of erosion that happened just within those 5 years, let alone the last storm, major storm that we hit that I know everybody experienced. And that was probably about 2 feet of erosion just in that last storm that came through in the ravine. So my question around 0 meters from stable top of slope, if the existing building is there, and if that's what's going to be approved, then I would ask that a note be made about that, because there is going to be future homes asking for similar and much bigger, exceptions to the bylaws here. And I think it's just setting a precedence that if you've got one home at 0 meters, what does that say for the rest of the homes being built in this area? I think a lot of this is to do with precedence and how we're looking at the community. The front of the home is coming forward by 8 feet. It is not actually in line with the 2 neighbors. The street goes on an angle, and all of the homes set back accordingly on that angle. And I will also say that the depth of the lots also decreases as you go north on this street. So from 168 to 160, there's a 100-foot difference in the depth of our 2 lots. So again, stable top of slope and keeping in mind erosion and all of that, I would ask that you consider before approving. I think everything else is outlined in my letter. I'm totally fine with, driveway width and proportion. Their lot is actually wider than mine, so it makes sense. But I will say that in this very well articulated planning letter, some of the information is slightly misleading. Variance 1 with the gross floor area, the 4 homes listed that exceed, none of them back onto a ravine. So none of them are subject to TRCA and any kind of environmental conditions that go along with it. So I would really take that into consideration, given what we're trying to preserve, which is the ravine, all the runoff that we're experiencing as bigger homes are being built. And they directly impact my neighbor to the south. Unfortunately, didn't have a chance. They're older. They didn't have a chance to write in, but all of the flooding actually ends up on to her driveway at the end, and they end up with quite a mess. So those are kind of my main concerns. I'm happy to have them answered rather than be an objection, be more questions. The family is lovely, so I don't have nothing against them. It's more just we're setting precedents here for much bigger homes in the area. And objections, frankly, which this homeowner particularly objected to 3 weeks ago.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Any questions from panel members? No? Okay. Thank you, Shivani. Have we got Heather on the line or still not?
We do not have Heather Ramsey on the line, so we can go back to Mr. Eagleman.
Okay.
Just for clarity, we sent Heather the information originally, and we'll also tried to follow up when we realized she wasn't on.
Okay, I think we do have a letter from her in the material. Okay. So, Mr. Engelman, if you can address that, plus whatever material was submitted in the 2 objection letters.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So I think a number of the concerns raised by some of the neighbors come from a perspective of perhaps some misunderstanding of what the variances are. Again, in regards to the 0 meter setback, it is an existing condition, and we've consulted extensively with the TRCA. We've revised the proposal in order to satisfy them, and they are satisfied. And that variance is entirely related to their jurisdiction, their authority, and considering they're satisfied, I would consider that variance meeting the intent of the bylaw. I don't think it would set a precedent, because whenever you trigger that variance, you have to consult with the TRCA, and you need a TRCA permit. So I don't think any note or condition would need to be.
Just to clarify, there actually is a letter on file from TRCA saying they have no objections to that condition.
They have, through you, Mr. Chair, they have no objections to which condition?
The 0 meters.
Oh, yes. They have issued a report noting that they are satisfied with the proposal. They have no objections to the variances requested.
Do you have the TRCA permit?
It is ready to be issued as soon as a committee makes a decision. Okay. Typically, they hold on to it until the committee application is dealt with. But,
right. But they've expressed in that letter that they will issue the permit, basically.
Correct, and they've expressed that to me directly.
So I'm just doing it for the benefit of the neighbors.
Understood. Fair enough, Mr. Chair, and I thank you for that. So, really, in regards to the concerns around the variance related to the stable top of slope, the TRCA has reviewed that. They're satisfied with it. They're ready to issue a permit as soon as this application is dealt with. As far as the owner objecting to another application, I won't really address that. I'm not aware of any such activities, but it's irrelevant anyway. And in regards to the GFA, so I think the adjacent, or one of the neighbors pointed out that some of the examples I provided in my justification letter do not back onto ravines. I would note that I think that is actually even more of a fair comparison, because in this case, we are actually not, our lot is not taken into consideration, the entire lot, when you calculate the FSI, and that is why the FSI is so high. But when you take into consideration the entire lot size, as I said, it's 0.45 times the lot area, or 118 square meters plus 33%, whereas all the examples I provided, which do not back onto ravines, are larger than that. So from a GFA massing perspective, this house is very much in keeping with the neighborhood, and it is really, the high FSI is really just a result of the bylaw calculation when you have a lot that is regulated by the TRCA. And the front yard setback, I noted that it is generally aligned with the adjacent dwellings. You can see on the site plan, it's practically at the same front yard setback when you compare it to 162 Humbervale Boulevard. The adjacent neighbor further east of that is located closer, and then the adjacent neighbor on the, or excuse me, to the south, the adjacent neighbor on the north side is a little bit further back, but the dwelling will, despite the reduced front yard setback, will still generally be aligned with both adjacent dwellings and the rest of the dwellings on Humbervale Boulevard. So I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question around the front yard setback, but not really. I mean, what's your current front yard setback?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the existing front yard setback from the closest portion of the dwelling is 11.5 meters. So it is a reduction to the existing as well. But again, to add to this house, you either have to go up or go forward. We can't go back because of the stable top of slope.
Understood. Okay, and as you say, the one to the north, it's roughly aligned. It's a little bit, it's almost a transition between the two. That's fine. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Engelman? No? No? Okay, so we'll take it into committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are you good to go?
There is, yeah, motion?
Go ahead.
If there's no other comment. I would like to move a motion. I believe this application meets the 4 tests, and based on the information provided and the review that's been done by TRCA and staff, I'd like to move a motion for approval, subject to the forestry, ravine, and planning comments.
Conditions. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you. And on that note, we'll break for lunch.
Yay. We're back at 2. Perfect timing. Imagine if we didn't have 3 or 4 deferrals in the, I know, so.